Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to call the work session for the Town of Breckenridge Town Council to order. It is February 14th, 3 p.m. and we begin with the water rate study. James.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Town Council. Public Works, we're very excited to bring in front of you today a presentation and discussion for the water rate and fee study. If council recalls, this was an initiative and an interest of Town Council last year to look at our water rate and fee structure. And a lot of this project was really identified out of the need of a lot of capital water projects. And so some of the discussion even nearly a year ago was, how are we doing money-wise in the water pro forma, and how are we going to fund projects going forward? And as a result of that, as I covered in my memo, we, Public Works, went out for a proposal and ultimately brought on Raftellus as a financial consulting firm to take a look at who specializes in water rates and this type for small mountain communities and utilities. And so over the course of nearly a year now, we've been working with Raftellus and the Water Task Force to really ultimately and dissect our full water utility in terms of operations, maintenance, and capital projects, not only for current, but also into the future. And again, a couple of the major capital projects that council's well aware of that really brought this to everyone's full attention was the second water treatment plant, and then also now the repair of the Goose Pasture Tarn Dam that's in its final and third season. As I mentioned, we work closely with the Water Task Force. So again, I included that in the memo, but this was a group of individuals made up from the community and then our finance staff and also Public Works staff. Joined today with Laura Lynch here, who's our water manager. And I don't know if everyone knows Laura, but Laura is really the one that's responsible for, I take a lot of the questions and answer a lot of the questions, but Laura really and her team makes all the water. And so I just want to call out Laura for all that she does in the water division. I'm going to turn it over to Raftellus here in just a minute, but I did want to just point out that this study, we really did focus on 4 pillars. And those, as included in the memo, were revenue stability, water fund health, conservation. We've been hearing a lot about conservation from the community, just the adoption of the sustainable BREC, and affordability, just making sure that our rates are equitable across the different demographic of the town. Raftellus, as we're joined today with Todd Cristiano, who is the senior project manager for Raftellus, and Harold Smith with Raftellus. And we've had other individuals with Raftellus as part of this study over the last few months, and I'm not sure if they're on or not, but we do have some recommendations that are part of both the memo, and Todd will kind of be going over those as well as part of the presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions as we go along, or if we want to just hold those off to the end, I feel like we can probably address any of those that council may have. With that, I'll turn it over to Todd. Todd, are you mic'd up and ready?
I am here. Thank you, James. Is it possible to get sharing permissions? It doesn't look like I'm able to share just yet. Oh. While that's going, while we get that sharing thing figured out, Mayor, members of council, good afternoon. Thank you for your time today. Like James mentioned, Raftellus was the consultant of record for this engagement that began about 9 months ago. And we've gone through a very deliberative process over this 9 months to come to these recommendations we have today. So let's see if I can share again here. There we go. Let's try that one here. Nope. Okay, sharing my screen. So hopefully you should see a title slide there. And we'll flip this around here. Okay, hopefully that's good. Continuing on. As you can see, this is we've got a lot on the agenda. We did a lot of work over the past 9 months. I'm going to walk through the key points and highlights of our study. And this was a very comprehensive study. It was a very deliberative process. Like James had mentioned, we met regularly with staff, executive management, as well as the rate advisory task force. In fact, we met with the task force 6 times over the past 6 months or so to review a number of rate alternatives. So I'll walk you through all those here as we go along. Obviously, you know, the rates and fees that are used by the town have to fund a number of things. And there's a huge obligation of the water rents and water system maintenance fees, as well as bond loans and plan investment fees. We have to fund operations, our capital projects, but, you know, we have to maintain our reserves and debt service coverage based on the loans we've issued. We need to be able to fund our growth to maintain that equity between existing and new customers. And we have to make sure the customer rate equity between residential customers and commercial customers, that we're recovering cost equitably between the two. So our overall goals and objectives were obviously maintaining utility financial health over the 10-year period. There's a fairly substantial 10-year capital program. We know that it's dynamic and it's never just set in stone, but there's a number of projects we've identified over the next 10 years that will need to be funded through loans, water system maintenance and fee, or rates, and cash and reserves. Obviously, essential water use affordability was a key item when we looked at the rate alternatives, and conservation, continued conservation of the wise use of water was another one. And we want to make sure that the customers, both within a class and between classes, there was a equity balance there to make sure that everyone's paying their fair share. So our rate study process really was broken down into 4 steps. We evaluated the plant investment fees, and that's the cost to recover growth, that those one-time fees that new development pays. Our financial plan or cash flow basically tells us what amount of revenue do we need to meet our expenditures on an annual basis. And that comes from water rents and your water system maintenance fee. Our cost of service is the analysis we go through to make sure that, well, is residential customers paying their fair share and commercial customers paying their fair share? Make sure there's no subsidies between the two. And obviously the last one is rate design. How are we going to recover the money from customers each month or bi-monthly in an equitable manner? Right now there's a base fee and a volume charge. So our overall recommendations are, and one of them is the annual rate increases to the water rents. The town has regularly increased revenue each year to help keep track with costs now, and that's something we are recommending as well, to continue with those annual adjustments. The annual plant investment fee increases, I believe, of 10% a year. We recommend that as well, based on our findings of what the current plant investment fee is. The switch to monthly billing is a big item here. I think you'll get some more equity between the customer classes and within the customers, and it gives customers more time to react because they're getting a message sooner, which will help with the conservation component of it. Plus, essential use affordability, you're not getting a larger bill every 2 months, but 2 smaller bills over a period of 2 months. We've made some minor changes to the residential rate structure and a minor change to the commercial rate structure. And similar to the rent increases and the PIF increases, we recommend continuing the water system maintenance fee increases. The water system maintenance fees are meant for capital only. And so we recommend continuing the increase in those annually, just to help meet those capital improvement needs over the 10-year period. So let's jump to our plant investment fee findings. And no surprise, based on our analysis, the fact that the town has been increasing those over the years, that our analysis showed that where the fee is today is where it needs to be. And those fees are used to obviously fund capital, but also help build reserves to an extent to help fund those projects in the future. And we are recovering costs equitably. What we've noticed about the town's plant investment fee is that it's fairly detailed in the way it's applied to customers, both commercial and residential, and really drills down into how the different portions of FFEs are applied to get to the full plant investment fee. We don't see that a lot anymore. We do see it in a lot of mountain communities, but it really is a very equitable way to do that. Although it is probably a little more difficult than what you might find at other utilities, but it's definitely a plus having that, and it seems to work well for the town. We recommend keeping the plant investment fee where it is and continue with the 10% increases every year. Come back and review this in the next couple of years to make sure that you're still on track and you haven't gotten behind or gotten way ahead. Let's switch to the cash flow. This is where the water rents and the water system maintenance fees come in. Obviously, we have a number of expenditures, and we have our O&M here on this bar chart. We have our debt service from those two recent loans we got for those capital projects, Tarn Dam and the new treatment plant. We also have some cash funded or rate funded capital improvement cost over the next 10 years. And we have the expenditures go up between 2023 and 2025 for that capital and kind of levels off in the future. And what you'll see here is this is the proposed trajectory of your rate revenues, and that's continuing on with the 5% increases. And there are a few years where we had some higher increases across the study period, but regardless, we are recommending, evaluating the increases every year and making sure that it's sufficient to meet your annual revenue requirements. And what's interesting about this is that you can see the purple bar, for the most part, is with these revenue adjustments, is above the bars. The purple line is above the bars or just touching the bars. That means our revenues are meeting our expenditures. When you have the bars above the purple line, it means that we're drawing down reserves because our expenditures are greater in those years than our revenues. But we also have reserves available to help us mitigate that and mitigate revenue adjustments. So this is what this would look like if you hadn't done any revenue adjustments over the 10-year period. Obviously, you'd have all of your bars above the dotted line and suggesting that you're really drawing down your reserves to a substantially negative number. But based on the revenue adjustments we have here, you're able to maintain your revenues meeting expenditures over the study period. Looking in terms of reserves, how that works, you can see that obviously in those years where our expenditures are greater than our revenues, that we're drawing down reserves. You can see that in the first couple of years, 2023 through 2025. This seems to level off in 2026 through the rest of the study period, and we're able to meet our targets, that green line that's there. And that's the whole goal, is that we want to make sure that our revenue adjustments are enough to meet our target reserves each year, and we're doing that. We're not dipping down below, and we're being financially sound both on the revenues and expenditures, but also meeting our reserve targets. This scenario we have here obviously meets our debt service coverage requirement as well over the 10-year period. So let's jump to the water rate structures. This is where the deliberative process of working with staff and getting a lot of billing data from Laura and the group there, and working with the rate advisory committee to look at all sorts of graphs and charts and comparisons. And like I said, this went on for, we met about 6 times since September to review different alternatives. So our recommended residential rate structure is maintaining the current structure you have, which is a base fee with a minimum allowance and a volumetric charge for anything over that allowance. And we're simply moving the allowance from 10,000 gallons per SFE to 6,000 gallons per SFE. And the goal there is to help encourage further water conservation. Right now, people might be using less than 10,000 gallons, but paying the same amount if they use 2,000 or 8,000. So it was an equity issue as well. We're also adding a second tier. So right now, you've got the base fee plus a volumetric charge above the minimum. And we're adding another tier at 20,000 gallons that has a higher rate for the usage. Not a lot of customers in that tier above 20,000 gallons, but there's a bit of volume. So definitely an opportunity for additional conservation. Here's what the rate structure looks like. We have the components here on the left: base fee, dollars per SFE per bills, $48.48. We're projecting the 6,000 gallons as a minimum charge, and from 6,000 to 20,000 gallons, it's $7.39, and above 20,000, it's $11.08. And obviously out of town is 1.5 times that. So the usage above 20,000, again, not too many customers in that space, but there's a bit of volume there again. So getting some additional conservation you might see that. Now, in terms of, well, would there be a reduction in revenue as a result of people cutting back? There could be, but we don't see it as being substantial enough in the first year. Over time, you might want to review that to make sure that you're balancing your revenues from the residential class. Here's a peer survey. These are all mountain communities around the area, around the Western Slope. And with the BREC recommended and BREC adopted, they're both the same because we're using 6,000 gallons of water, which is within the minimum for both the existing scenario and the proposed. So we're at the same rate right now, and that's 60-48. You'll notice the base fee was $48.48. We're adding in the $12 water system maintenance fee for 1 SFE into that calculation. So not a lot of movement here. We're kind of in the middle. Of course, we don't know when these other communities have raised rates or whether they plan on doing so in the near future, but we're in a good space here as compared to other communities nearby, other mountain communities. Let's look at the commercial rate structure. And the big change here is right now there's a base fee that varies by meter size and a minimum associated with that base fee. And the base and the minimum varies by the meter size. After a lot of deliberation and discussion, we looked at, well, what happens if we eliminated the base fee altogether and just charged based on volumetric only? That's the recommendation we've got here. So essentially we have a zero base fee and all billable water volume is $7.39. Now, this might bring up the question of, well, is this going to impact revenue stability because we're getting rid of this base charge we're getting? Well, considering that the commercial class uses a lot of volume, the service charge really becomes a fairly, I wouldn't say inconsequential, but it's a much smaller component of the cost you're recovering from commercial. So, and now that you're getting charged for $7.39 for all of the usage, that kind of balances out that lack of the perceived reduction in revenue stability. So very simple rate structure. We've got one component, and that's $7.39. Here's a comparison of some local businesses. We tried to find some businesses here that were locally owned rather than some of the other stores that might be sending the bill elsewhere. And so these are some of the customers that would be affected. And I've got the different types of customers here. Now, some of these are standalone buildings. Some are part of a larger outlet type situation, a corner little mall or something. So the situation just varies based on all of these. And these bills here do not include the water system maintenance fee, just because we don't know how many SFEs are included in each one of those meter sizes for these customers. So some slight increases on larger customers. The increases are a little less increase on the lower customers there for the retail and the cookie and ice cream shop. But of course, it just varies on your annual usage and your annual usage each year. So let's switch over to communications here. Obviously, we've made these changes, and what's the best way that we're going to communicate this to the customers? Well, we've kind of taken a three-prong approach. One is bill stuffers, and this is the first thing that we've put together. Now, less than 10% of your customers right now receive a physical bill. But we do know that the American Water Works Association did a survey, and they found that 60% of people that do get a paper bill do look at the inserts. And so that's important. So it's one mechanism of other ones we've developed. And we talk about here what the goals of the rate structure was, rather than talking about numbers and adding this together and comparing this and that. We talk about more about the goals. They can obviously go to the website and look at the structure and see how their bill might change as a result of the proposed changes. Another one here is we'll have a frequently asked questions on the website, and this drills down pretty deeply, but it basically ties in the increase into, well, what are we getting out of that, and what's the importance of the water utility, and what do they have to do on a daily basis, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to provide water. So we're looking to provide this FAQ on the website. And finally, we'll be using Facebook here, which is obviously still a good channel for social media for the town, and we'll be promoting and putting up some more information on the various rate structures and why we're doing that, the conservation, efficiency, and affordability, providing a lot more content here for people to interact with the town and get some feedback and help answer questions or any sort of confusion about the rate structure. But again, they will have the ability to go to the website and look at the rate structure themselves and calculate their own bill, or call into customer service and get their questions answered there. So that's the communication part of it. So this concludes my portion of the presentation. I just want to reiterate that our recommendations are continue with the annual rate increases on the water rents. Same thing with the plant investment fees and the water system maintenance fees. Doing that in the past has really put the utility in a great financial position to move towards the future and handle these larger capital projects that are coming down the road and not trying to play catch up. The monthly billing will be great for customers, and these minor modifications for the residential and commercial rate structure change, I think will be help to be better understood by customers, and help with your revenue stability and as well as your revenue sufficiency. So those 6 items there, what we try to accomplish with this study. I'll take any questions regarding the results, or any sort of detailed questions regarding our approach and how we tackled some of the technical issues along the way.
Thanks, Todd.
Remind me, are we looking to do this as the start of 24?
Yeah, maybe just to clarify a couple details and just so we can all be on the same page. What's being recommended right here, these rate changes would be effective 2024. The one thing, some of the feedback we're looking for now, and as mentioned, one of the recommendations is to go to monthly billing. And staff would like some feedback and been talking internally about going to monthly billing as soon as maybe July of this year to help start that education of what the consumption or the use of water is, as a way to kind of set some of the background for the changes that are going to take place in 2024. One important piece, just to kind of describe a little bit too in more detail, is that making the change from 10,000 gallons bi-monthly now is what we're paying. We're going to move to 6,000 gallons, or rather 3,000 gallons a month. So that further is going to, there's going to be a lot of education around that and communication for people to understand that volumetric base is being reduced. Therefore, kind of drive some of those conservation efforts that we're working to achieve as a community. So with that, we'll take some questions if there's
Questions?
Are there many users that would be from going down from 10 down to 6 that would be impacted? And is there a way to target them with some communications to let them know that we should think about conservation, or their rates could be impacted more significantly?
Good question, Carol. I'm going to ask Todd. Todd, we looked at a number of data points and graphs, and I think we even captured the number of users that were in that. Now we'll keep it bi-monthly to 6 to 10 thousand gallons. But what percentage of that, if you can recall, and is there a way that we can communicate or kind of specifically target for that?
I don't like shooting from the hip because I don't recall off the top of my head, but I want to say around the 20% of bills or 15% of bills are between that band between 6 and 10,000 gallons. And I say bills, not customers, because a customer could have 12 bills of 7,000 gallons. Let me double check that for you. And I believe with the way Matt is developing his FAQ, as well as the social media, that he'll be able to address those concerns with customers that might be the most affected. Those in that kind of band there between the 6 and 10, and some of those commercial customers, depending on where their thresholds were in the meter size, they might be more impacted. So we'll need to do a little bit of homework to find out which one of those customers, which groups of customers within the residential and commercial class are going to be the most affected, and kind of have a targeted message for that group and provide some background and information for them.
I would imagine that we have a significant number of people that probably would be fine until it comes to outdoor irrigation.
That's where the problem is.
In the summer, they're 3 or 4 months in the summer, they're likely to peak over 3,000 gallons, and
That's where we want to affect some conservation, because we know there are plenty of people that let their sprinklers run 7 days a week. And that's really where the conservation needs to happen. So this is giving people the opportunity to conserve and not just have 10,000 gallons of water you just can burn.
Well, it makes sense as well, because 3,000 a month, you're gonna catch those surge months, more of them than
Right.
10,000 over 2 months.
Right.
You know, when we're doing messaging, I would encourage you guys to talk about all of your assets. I found that fascinating. And, you know, we have a tarn, a dam, 2 raw water treatment plants, 9 storage tanks, 90 miles of pipe, you know, all of that. It's a nice awareness, you know. I mean, that's a lot of stuff to maintain.
Speaking of dams, does the rate funded CIP account for additional or new water storage up at Blue Lakes?
It is currently in the pro forma. So I guess to answer your question, yes, it is
Oh.
included as part of this.
Cool.
That is there's a partnership that's exists for that project. And while that hasn't been all agreed upon, but we are planning for that expense.
So that additional, expense every month for the end users is going to then set us up for success with the capital side of things if we do go for additional storage up at Blue Lakes.
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you.
One thing that is, when you look at the commercial rate piece and the graph that Todd put up, it seems like everybody's getting an increase. That is actually not the truth. There were a lot of commercial customers that are not getting an increase. But the group at the time wanted to make sure that everybody, the things sort of equaled out. The way we do commercial billing right now is really sort of bizarre. We do it by your meter size, and you can change your meter size. Doesn't change how much water you get. It just changes how much you get in your initial billing. So it was a really funky way for us to charge for water. And the group thought that just charging per gallon was the best way, most equitable the way to do it, because a commercial operation and residential are completely different.
The other thing that really hit home to me when we were looking at commercial, I think the cost of delivering water goes up. And we have slight increases each year. And so while you may see some slight increases, there's also a little bit of room in there for even a commercial place to look at conservation.
Right.
You're paying for exactly what you use now, exactly what you use. And if you can cut back a little bit, maybe you're not going up $30 a month. Maybe you're staying the same as you are today, but I think our pro forma can handle those things and still allow people to utilize some conservation. It's important to them. So.
Tied into the conservation front, does it make sense to be more aggressive on the pricing in the summer? And I don't know what the usage rates, but create a tiered structure to really kind of get the result that goes.
I think we will get the result with this, and it's simple, it's easy to understand. And people will start to see the effect of using more than 6,000 or 3,000 gallons in the summertime. And I think that first couple of months, I think we need to make sure we do some messaging on that front. But when I look back at my water usage, I'm definitely cutting back in the summer, because that's when we would go over that amount. So I think it'll have a great effect.
Do we want to be more aggressive, I guess?
I don't think so to start. Maybe as time goes on, if we don't get that desired conservation effect, then I'd say the council should relook at it. But as a start, I think this is good. It's pretty simple to understand. Switching to the monthly billings, I think a good step. So all in all, I think that the consultant and James's team have done a great job burning through a ton of, the amount of data we looked at was mind numbing.
Indeed.
When we use the word equity, we're talking about residential versus commercial. I wonder if, when we look at it from a low income household residential to a high income residential household, what does a 6,000 a gallon user look like? Do we know what impact this is going to have on our residents that are struggling to make the bills as it is? And what that, increase, the percent increase year over year, what effect that's going to have on them versus, the tiered structure? And if did you guys look at where that threshold should be? Maybe we can keep the base rate lower if we lowered the threshold from 20,000 gallons to 15, or I guess I'm having a hard time identifying what a 6,000 gallon user looks like in our community.
Yeah, great question, Jay. I know we did look at that, and I'm trying to recall how that, I think the main thing that we identified that, even that 6,000 or 8,000, I think we're pretty much the same. It captured about 80% of the water customers already. And so there wasn't going to, a lot of people live in that space already, and there wasn't going to be significant impact to a lower income family or individuals over, even a family of four. At least, as I mentioned, it was, I think that threshold was right around 7,000. I don't know. I don't like shooting from the hip either on numbers, but based on how much water was used, where that kind of that tip point was where you're going over. So again, balancing water usage and equity, and also trying to have a conservation, emphasis and message in there too. It was kind of a pretty surgical in the end where we landed. And as Water Task Force kind of, and Eric kind of just underscored this a little bit too, we all felt good that this was a good starting point to kind of go with what's being recommended right now. And it's not, it's fairly typical, I should say, to go back and look at water rates every 4 to 5 years. And so we'll start the study up again in probably 3-4 years and look where we're at and try and make any adjustments necessary at that point if we're, collecting more revenue than necessary, or if we're missing some of that, some of the areas that we have been identified here. So
Thanks, James.
James, do we have, or is there programs available for, like, I know Excel recently had some stuff, obviously with increased gas costs and really impacted people, but do we have anything at all where if somebody was, having a bad month or two where they can get assistance, or is that handled through like FERC if they would reach out to, or?
Yeah, I don't think we have anything
yeah,
concrete. I mean, we've always worked with people in the past. I mean, we've never shut off anyone's water, even if people haven't paid their bill, we've always been able to work with them and set up payment plans. But we might not have a specific policy.
Okay, I was just curious.
Okay, good. Other questions?
Maybe we could just visit with FERC and make sure that they know we're doing this, and if they see an uptick in Breckenridge residents, Upper Blue residents coming to them, that maybe they would at least let us know so that we can, I'm sure they'll let us know if we say we'll give them some more funding for it.
We talked about this. I really don't think
It's a significant.
the majority of residential, like 80% of residential customers aren't going to see any difference.
That's gonna be subtle.
It really won't even, they won't see anything. Your bill will seem lower because we're going to a monthly billing. It's really the people that have big lawns that are gonna see, or a ton of water use. And 3,000 gallons a month is a lot of water. And I bet if all of you went and looked at your bills, you'd be, below that. I mean, most people were when we looked at this, so.
Yeah, we have an average gallon per person use, is it under like around 150 or something?
Like 160 gallons
Yeah,
per SFP
per day.
Per day.
it's kind of a national 160 gallons a day is a national.
Per SFP, that's what
Per SFP.
that's what we are approximately.
Shower at your neighbor's house. Save a little,
Rec center.
shower at the rec center, save a little money. Everybody good with the direction here?
James, I know in the email that went out, there was a water rate increase and it said, how do I review my past water use? And there's a really nice little link to sign on to your account. And that, I think that's awesome. I did find that was a little bit confusing, like the first page it takes you to doesn't make a lot of sense. So maybe you can remind people that there's something about Water Smart to click on that really shows you what you're trying to get at. Because that Water Smart page is amazing.
It is.
And it's like you at a glance, your water use at a glance. So maybe just one more sentence in that paragraph that tells people where to go from there.
You don't clean your kids very often, do you?
They clean themselves every day. But
I think we want to be very deliberate about when we start marketing and pushing this out, because if, you know, it's one thing if we're gonna start monthly billing in July, that's a separate communication, but you know, people just got these letters on their 2023 increase.
Last
And
night.
so I don't want to start communicating another increase right away. I think we need to wait till
Yeah.
strategically before we roll, you know, because we're talking 24 here, not 23. So,
But I think we definitely want to do it for this summer because that's the peak use. And so giving people a chance to look
Okay.
at how much do I use in a normal summer, I think is really important.
And again, that's, as part of 2024 too, we'll reduce it from the 10 to 6. So having that ability to see on a monthly basis this year will kind of get you a little bit thinking a little bit more about your usage and
Reprogramming sprinkler systems.
and really the big, and just to kind of summarize, the distinction for changes next year will be, I know the water rates increased to 5% and the 5% for residential and commercial just went out for this year. The difference will be for next year is that it'll be 10% for residential, 10% for commercial increase, and then also a 5% increase on water service maintenance fee, which we haven't had an increase on water service maintenance fee for a number of years. It's been fixed at $72 a year, $12 a billing cycle, but that will go up by.
So wasn't our goal in the sustainability plan for the reduction to happen by 2023?
Well, we had kind of talked about that and targeted that, but after kind of going, and then the length of this study kind of carried us past that date a little bit. And then also in terms of just a need to make changes, there was a little bit of sensitivity to the timing of this, of just coming out with the new adopted 2023 rates, and then, just following that right up with some additional increase. So
We better outdo ourselves in some other area then. Right.
Yes, ma'am. Other questions for James or Laura? All right, thank you. And thank you, Todd, and your team. for all
Thank you
the-
very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great job.
everyone.
Bye
All right,
now.
Planning Commission decisions. Really weren't anything to decide, so anybody have any questions on the memo? All right. That's it for Planning Commission. Let's move on to legislation. And we start with plastic pollution ordinance for first reading. Hey, Dick, did you read Todd Nelson's?
I called him.
Okay.
I've got some comments.
I think he made some good points there that I didn't even think about. Oh, hi, Jesse Burley.
Oh, hi, Mayor, Council, good afternoon. So at the first meeting in January, we brought the requirements that we needed to meet under Colorado's HB 21-1162 and had a discussion about what, if anything, we wanted to move past on. And so staff was given some direction to come back with an ordinance that is laid out in front of you. The memo goes over 6 points that basically, give you the gist of what we're doing. But Mayor, I'm wondering, do you want to go point by point and have a discussion, or
I
do you want me to go
I
over the
do,
whole
because
thing?
there's a couple things that I don't think we'll have any discussion on, and then a couple that I think we do.
Okay, great.
Want to maybe modify a little bit.
Yep. So let's start with, well, I don't want to assume anything is easy. So we'll just go with the bag fee. So as you know, Breckenridge has had a bag fee since 2013. We phased out plastic bags in 2021. So the fee only applies to recycled content paper bags. Staff is proposing that we raise that to 25 cents. And in order to align with the Colorado statutes, we would then also be required to have only 100% recycled content paper bags, whereas today under our code, it's 40% recycled content. So that's question number one.
Okay, first off, questions? Everybody's good with this one? Any comments on this?
I think it's too low, but I'm in support. I mean, it's moving in the right direction. I think the 25 cents isn't high enough to incent the result that we want. But it's a step in the right direction.
$17, put Todd down. Somewhere in between. Okay, you're all good with this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Good call, Jesse.
All right, thank you. So the next point, just want to cover, this is again, another requirement under the state bill, and that is that for retail food establishments beginning January 1st, 2024, it would ban polystyrene takeout containers. So we are aligning with that bill.
And just to be clear, that's a state law.
Correct.
That we're just
Correct.
lining up.
Mhm.
Any problem with this one? Any questions? Okay,
Okay. Check.
but number 3.
All right, so number 3. Well, let me do one more that I think is a little bit easier, and this is to Councilmember Carlton's point. So right now, beginning essentially as soon as this ordinance would be effective, we are proposing a skip the stuff legislation, right? So we talked about this at our last meeting, that would require customers to opt in at restaurants to plastic serviceware, condiments, all the single-use accoutrements that go with your takeout. And so we propose that begins effective immediately, essentially.
And I'm 100% supportive of that.
Great.
Totally supportive of that.
Ex-
Yeah, it's when July 1st comes that I have some
Yep.
issues, and my issues when we ban those, there are not a lot of viable options for some of this stuff. So, and I'm talking about the personal size condiments, ketchup, mustard, soy sauce, all that stuff, Parm cheese for pizzas and, dried red chilies, all that. So I love the opt-in, but banning those, being the industry called PCs, but I mean, banning those things, there's just no viable options. So I'm opposed to that. I would like to just take those couple of items out.
Especially because we don't offer a compostable option. That's really the rub. If we had an option that we could compost.
But you can't get that stuff. It's the problem too.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't compost it even if you
Right.
wanted to.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying the personal single-use size of the condiments, plastic lids for cups, because there's not a real viable option for that. And I don't think we can sell to-go drinks without lids. Those are really my only two, honestly.
So we do separate single-use food serviceware,
Yeah.
being
that-
the straws, cups, stirs, cocktail sticks. And we separate that from the single-use condiments
Right.
by definition. So are you talking about both of those items, or?
I'm simply talking about lids. There are viable options for you, utensils and stir sticks and all of that stuff, straws, all of it.
Yep.
So I'm fine banning all of that. It's just the lids to the cups.
Lids
So
and
lids to
the personal
cups and the
condiments?
Single-use condiments. Those are the only two items that I have concerns with, just due to availability of options.
So you'd
until
still
we have
skip
better
them,
options.
you'd
still
still
skip
skip
the
them
stuff.
unless they were
Yeah,
requested.
They have to opt in. They have to ask for them.
Okay.
Right away. I'm 100% for that.
I think you look at something like a 7-Eleven and, someone goes in for a Slurpee, they can get that container that's paper or whatever it is, but what is gonna go on top that's the rub. And I agree. I don't see an alternative at the moment that's there. I would love to have someone craft come up with one.
Yeah.
But until then, I think it'd be difficult for a establishment such as a convenience store to figure that out on the fountain drinks.
Coffee shops, you know, all that.
Is that something, Jesse, where you could keep an eye on the alternatives and let us know when something is becoming more available? That'd be great.
And the only other piece, and maybe this is more on the enforcement side, you know, in the food and beverage industries, you know, it's changing quite quickly with some of these products and, you know, some of the alternative products that we're pushing people to, which I'm supportive of, they come and go in supply. There are times when you can't get them, and I don't want to write that into the ordinance at all. I just think maybe we have some discretion and enforcement around that, at least if the industry is experiencing supply issues. It's more an education of the enforcement arm.
Right.
Is what I'm advocating.
Yeah.
Not nothing in writing.
We're good on that point. Okay.
Next.
And last but not least, so after 7 months of stakeholder engagement with the community around the Sustainable BREC plan, one of the primary strategies under the waste section was to look at a ban on plastic beverage containers. And so that is the language that we have included in this to begin July 1st, 2024, which aligns with the local preemption repeal that was part of House Bill 1162. We define it here, and this is obviously open to suggestion, but beverage container less than ½ gallon in size and may or may not contain a lid. So we're really targeting those single-use water bottles, soda bottles. You know, the ½ gallon was intended to allow for milk jugs and other large bulk type beverage containers. So I do want to acknowledge a couple letters that you all received. So the American Plastics Recyclers did send a letter late this afternoon, as did the Colorado Beverage Association. Those are both in opposition to this. The plastic recyclers did offer some amendment suggestions and a narrower scope here. But the Colorado Beverage Association did oppose this. And then you also received an email a couple of days ago in support of it from Beth Groundwater, who's a member of our local Sierra Club. A couple of the amendment recommendations that I think are worth looking at are some of the exemptions around medical products, for example, and dietary supplements, which are some of the ones that, you know, like infant formula, for example, is used a lot. And so, you know, creating an exemption or carve out for those particular types of items could go a long way with that group.
That seems reasonable to me.
What? Is there a way to write that strict enough where all of a sudden Mountain Dew is not a dietary supplement? That's right.
Yes. I mean, herein lies the problem, right?
The tough part is to write that in a way that doesn't leave too many openings.
Will we do that for second reading then?
Yeah, if council gives direction for that, we would bring that back for second reading. Condiment issue.
And what?
The condiment issue that we just talked about.
Thanks.
Mhm.
I really like this piece of it, Jesse. I mean, Jeffrey's been talking about water
Where is he?
bottles since before he was gray.
Bummer.
You know,
Done, so he wouldn't show up.
You know, the only other comment I have about that is I am in full support of it. But I think there's, you know, it's a three-legged stool of sorts, right? Where if we don't have the capability to have the alternative to the plastics make a full circle easily, then it's kind of all for naught, like in the fact that if the industry goes to aluminum containers and they become single-use aluminum containers because there's not a place to easily recycle them or or whatever, or reuse them, then we're not really making a dent. But at the same time, I saw that like Santa Cruz had adopted something similar to this, Marin County as well, and I think they're successful with it, but I think that there's water refill stations that have to be prevalent and recycling opportunities of aluminum or reusable opportunities of the aluminum containers. And I think that can't get forgotten in this.
You're
I think
totally,
that's
totally
really-
right, Jay.
Yeah, and I do want to acknowledge the work that the town has done on water refill stations. And we do work closely with the Welcome Center to promote those locations. We have, I want to say about 15, fact check me, Teddy, on the number here, but at town facilities, the Riverwalk Center, and the Welcome Center they have a handout on that specific program. So more can be done there, but we recognize that there is a hierarchy when we talk about reuse and recycling, and that there's multiple programs and policies that we need to pursue in order to achieve our goals. This is one of many. We also just had a green team meeting a week ago where we talked about promoting our water, clean drinking water for the town, and how can we do a better job telling people about that as we do this other program as well. So that
we
is
might,
not lost. Thank you.
we might explore an ordinance in our community development, around water fill stations for commercial buildings going forward. Just see if other communities are doing it and just explore it with Mark and his team and see if it makes sense to have an ordinance there. Because I agree, great point, Jay. And, obviously, as we go down this road, we have to really ramp up education on recycling. We know our rates in this community are horrible. And it's challenging because it's a lot of guests.
Yeah.
So.
Jesse,
Great.
can you talk a little bit about how involved the restaurant association has been and any other concerns among your peers that you're hearing?
I think they're aware. That the individual service condiments was brought to my attention. I didn't read this till late yesterday afternoon, and Ken Nelson called yesterday afternoon and had some concerns about it. So the Colorado Restaurant Association legal affairs person, who I've been working with quite closely this week on a labor law issue, that an ordinance that's in the legislature, asked me about it, and I said, call Ken Nelson because I'm in support of this ordinance. So he was trying to bring it to the attention of our local chapter. But Eric, I don't know, or Jay, I haven't heard a lot of pushback.
We've moved away from plastic water bottles a while ago. You can get a lot of the big water suppliers like Aquafina now do aluminum bottles. So it's not, we've moved sort of past that point where this stuff is not available. So, but to Jay's point, I do think we should do more with the fill stations, try to get people moving that way. This will slowly be a nationwide thing, like a lot of other things that happen. And there's a lot of local jurisdictions that are way out ahead of this already. So I think everybody knows it's coming.
Yeah. And there was a lot of education in the restaurant association around the state ordinances. And so I think everybody had kind of stake positions on it. It's not going to be unanimous. I think there'll be a group of naysayers out there, but I don't think it'll be a majority by any means of restaurateurs. At least that's my sense of the people that are active in the restaurant association.
So the one thing I'll add, and Jesse and I have talked about this, and Kirsten has also talked with us about this, is continuing to have conversations with stakeholder groups. So there are obviously some folks we have not talked to about this. And I think we agree it is important to continue to have those conversations. And like Jesse said, we got some good feedback from the plastic recyclers that's informing a change you're going to make at second reading. And as we continue to get some of that feedback, we'll bring recommendations back to you.
I mean, this is a long way out. It's over a year. So there's plenty of time to
Get prepared.
and moderate anything that isn't going to work. Other questions or comments? All right, Jesse, thank you.
Thanks for your work.
Tax code bag fee exemption for first reading.
Jesse, is that still you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Two of these.
Since faster. So now that you have, we are moving forward with the 25-cent bag fee, we do just need to clarify in the tax code portion that they are exempt from sales tax. Great.
Jesse, thank you. Ordinance amending Title 12 municipal water utility, Chapter 3 cross connections. James.
Mayor and Town Council, the ordinance before you this evening for first reading will amend Title 12, Chapter 3, specifically Section 6, which addresses compliance. As I outlined in my memo, we've had a backflow program for probably over 50 years now, but kind of coupled with policy changes and stronger compliance with CDPHE, they're have made some more strict requirements for compliance. As part of the language that's being amended in the town code, it will effectively give the town and the water division authority to apply civil penalties for non-compliance with individuals that have backflow assemblies. So, and that the real need for going to this is that while it is part of town code right now for those individuals with backflow assemblies to comply with the program, there's really not any, there's not an effective way to really ensure that these individuals are submitting their test reports to the water utility. And as a result of that, and I know recently we've discussed that we just received a violation with CDPHE for this specific thing, compliance of this backflow program. So with the changes, staff is recommending that we adopt this additional language to this section title.
So have we thought about sort of bringing this in-house and doing these inspections ourselves? This is really, it's a very nebulous thing for an owner. Number one, to know if they have this. Number two, to know who even to call. You know, I know you provide a couple of phone numbers, but it's not really bulletproof, and just making a penalty phase. I don't know if that's going to get us where we want to be, as opposed to the town. I mean, maybe we just hire an outside inspector that just goes through and you get a phone call. Inspector will be there, you know, next week or something like that. This just seems like nobody's going to know about this until they get a bill or a fine for not doing it.
Well, the way that the process, the way that it works right now is that the water division does have a group mail or mass email that is sent out to approximately 850 individuals that have these devices. And so where it goes from there is that these individuals are notified, and to date, about 75% of them are complying. And the state requires right now that there's 90% compliance within this program. So there's, you know, that gap that is being missed. Staff feels that with the additional penalty that's assessed, that it will help people to kind of identify and prioritize that this is something that needs to be done. A lot of times right now, the way that we handle these situations is staff spends, a number of the staff within Public Works cold calls all these individuals, and a lot of people go, oh yeah, I've been meaning to schedule that and I just forgot about it. Or I had that done and the test company forgot to submit the report. So there's a number of things that kind of come up, you know, that kind of add into this, you know, that 15% delta of non-compliance. Interestingly enough, our water system, we're kind of right in that that mental space too of smaller systems. For instance, even here in the county, have a lot fewer backflow assemblies out there, and they are able to have an in-house program. The larger company or the larger utilities, certainly on the Front Range, they have a whole, I'll say there's a number of individuals that just focus on this program. So it would be something that they could do we could do in-house, we could staff up and do that. I guess one of the questions you just raised, Eric, is if we could hire somebody to do that. There are a number of third-party testers that are already exist out there. And depending on the time of the year, it's not that challenging to really get some schedule to have that done. And I did talk to, just as a similar note, Red, White, and Blue for their sprinkler systems. They do the same thing. If you have a sprinkler system in your facility or property, you're required to have that third party tested, and they have a good compliance under that same type of process as well. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, it's
but-
really more, if we can't get to that 90%, we're gonna have to change the way we do business. I mean, I think that's just, if this doesn't get us from 75 to 90, we need to rethink this.
But we could do, Eric, is we could refuse boat licensing unless it's done. If we don't have,
Idea,
we
actually.
don't have it on record, we could send the business saying, time to renew your boat license. However, till we get this compliance piece, you aren't eligible to get a boat license. I mean, it's a little bit heavy handed, but
Yeah.
if we're having trouble, I mean,
Yeah, after this step, if it doesn't go anywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, I think our discussion internally right now, and as with a lot of things, I mean, getting, introducing money or a fee or a penalty will definitely, we feel will get some attention. It is successful. We modeled and a lot of the language, Kirsten was reviewed and ultimately lifted from other water utilities. So it does get results, and we feel at this point we can get that desired result that
Great.
in the 90%, hopefully 100%.
Okay.
So.
Well, I guess we'll wait and see. I don't like having that black mark with CDPHE for the town. That's really, in the end, that's the thing we want to correct.
Correct. And
And I'm surprised they don't inspect, because they have inspectors in all our businesses.
Everything else,
Anyway.
yeah.
They inspect everything else.
The backflow inspection, that's the same guys that do the sprinklers, the Ansel, the fire extinguishers, so you just add that into your annual.
But not everybody has sprinklers that have backflow. That's sort of the catch. Not everybody has the same, they're not just.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the sprinkler arm that does it, the Ansel arm,
Right.
the fire suppression arm doesn't do it. It's
Has
just the
backflow.
fire sprinkler arm that does it.
So,
correct.
thanks, James.
Thank you.
Site host agreement and easement for Excel owned DC fast chargers and EV supply infrastructure at the library. That's all we're talking about, water and sustainability. Teddy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This bill authorizes the town manager to enter into a service agreement with Excel, as well as provide the accompanying easement to install, maintain the EV supply infrastructure and Excel-owned charging equipment at the BGV Community Center. Through this agreement, Excel would install, own, and operate 2 DC fast chargers at this location, which would be open and available for use by the public. The current design has them located at the north parking lot. The town applied for this program, was one of just 6 communities accepted out of 21 applications, and it would bring much needed EV fast charging opportunity to the community at little to no cost to the town.
Awesome. Questions?
How did they select communities?
You had to be 10 miles away from the nearest fast charger. And we actually are a little less than that with the fast charger at the Walmart in Frisco. We're 9 point something miles away, but they worked with us and let us get it. But it's part of Excel's transportation electrification plan. They've got a pot of money they're trying to spend to speed up the transition to EVs. And this is one of the projects that has come out of that.
And do you guys feel like the parking lot at the library is big enough to have a couple of these? Because it seems like recently that parking lot is really well used.
Yeah, we had also looked at the Riverwalk Center as another location and kind of talking through some things. We ended up landing at the library. We originally were looking at the south parking lot, but trying to site the supply infrastructure, the transformer, the switchgear, there just wasn't great locations over there. And then that's where we ended up over at the north parking lot. So it's just 2 parking spaces out of the whole lot. So we're hoping that's not too much of an impact.
Okay.
It's typically the south that seems to fill first. is what
Yeah.
I've seen.
I would say so too.
We-
Well, for a long time, they locked that north door. I think that was part of the problem. And so
What's the
now.
difference between
everything's-
connector and market?
That's a good question. I know you're looking at that on here. I think that the program had 2 kind of things they're trying to kind of work on, some corridors. So that's where the connector ones and the market ones were ones where getting back to, there just wasn't any existing fast charging
Gotcha.
in the area.
Cool.
Thanks for
Other
doing this.
questions? All right. Relief judge appointment. Hello, Judge. It's been a while. Kirsten? I didn't make a presentation.
We can't hear you, Kirsten. No, we still can't hear you. If you want, I can start in. Okay, well, while Kirsten's getting her sound working, so we have identified some times when the municipal judge, Buck Allen, will need to be relieved of his duties, and we are requesting a relief judge be appointed in those cases. And Ron Carlson is who we are requesting appointed for that. And he is here in the audience. And I think Kirsten's working on it. The memo is self-explanatory other than that.
Do you have anything you want to? Come on down.
See a face to go with it. The mayor and I go back to before he had gray hair.
Yeah.
So
Last week.
we're well acquainted. And every once in a while, there are conflicts where by parties, which I understand we have a motions hearing coming up that needs a relief judge because Judge Allen is conflicted out of it. And I provided a little narrative resume. I've been doing this for a while in other places. So happy to help out.
Judge, thank you for helping us with this. Questions?
I assume you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I would say Helen amply covered it, but if you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ron. All right, we have a approval of a DOLA grant application for Stables Village infrastructure by resolution.
Hi. good
Hello.
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. So I haven't been here before, so my name is Aubrey Seal. I'm the grants administrator for the town. So a couple of weeks ago, I submitted an application to DOLA for the Innovative Housing Incentives Grant Program, requesting $3 million to assist with infrastructure for the Stables Housing Project. One of the requirements from DOLA, we need to provide up to a 20% match. So I'm here today to get your approval. You approved $7.2 million on November 22nd. DOLA just needs official action stating that the town is still committed to providing that match. Any questions?
Are we beholden to anything else? If we receive this money, there's no, obviously I'm thinking of the AMI caps that we're struggling with right now, but are there any other things that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, do you know if Melanie is here? Melanie?
No, but I think we can say there's no attachment to AMIs or anything like that. There may be other requirements in the grant of how we use
Mhm.
the funds, but it's intended for infrastructure and that's really all they care about.
Okay.
Question. No, that's a good question.
Other questions?
No, thanks for your great work on
Yeah.
all the grants that we
Yeah.
are securing.
Thanks. Happy to have you.
Exciting.
Are you also the community development block grant funding for construction of the Soul Center?
And I'm also here with Sarah Grant. She is the Community Development Director for FERC. So she's here to answer any specific questions you might have about the grant application. But the town was recently approached by FERC to submit an application to DOLA on their behalf. The specific grant requires that a government entity submit the grant. So FERC is requesting funds in the amount of $600,000 to aid in the construction of the Soul Center at Alta Verde. So I'm here today to just get your approval that we can submit that grant on behalf of FERC. Any questions?
I think this is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
Awesome. Great
I
work.
just want to say thank you.
Mayor, the other thing I just want to mention is the part of the requirement for this grant is that one, we need your official approval in the form of the resolution, but also that this is a public hearing. So tonight, we need to have a public hearing associated with it so that we can hold true to the requirements.
Easy enough.
Hey, Aubrey,
done.
is this enough? How much money is available?
For the FERC grant, that's a Sarah question.
Yes, so they encourage a cap of 600,000 per applicant, but you could go above. So essentially, we could have asked for a little bit more. In talking with the staff and helping them advise kind of where we're at on our campaign, they advise 600,000. But they are granting more to certain entities, and it is something that we could consider if we wanted. But I think at this time, we're about $1 million left to raise for the project. So this 600,000 would really help us get even closer to closing that gap. And I think it would be a significant impact to the project. So thank you for the
Congratulations.
consideration.
That's
Thank-
phenomenal.
Thank you.
I didn't
And
know
there-
you were that close.
90% of the way to goal. So
Wow. What's the total goal for fundraising?
11.9 million.
Holy smokes, that's fantastic.
And there are folks in the audience for Building Hopes Board and the FERC board that are here in support as well, and want to acknowledge them and thank them for their support.
And I figured that's why they were here. I think Tim
We're
just
happy
came
to-
to hang out. Any further on this? Great, great job. Thank you.
Mayor, I just want to clarify that I was wrong and the AMI piece on the DOLA grant, they have 140% AMI tied to
Oh,
For how much?
that, 3 million.
But how many units will that affect?
I don't, Lori just sent me an email. I don't know that didn't say that it's any particular number of units. I don't think we were going above 140% AMI for any of the units, were we?
Shannon, can you say that again? Sorry.
So what Lori said is the $3 million stables grant is 140% AMI for home ownership. So I
That
don't,
affects every single unit in the whole development.
I believe so. I will clarify with her.
Is that a cap or is that a?
Average?
Let me find out.
Yeah. If that's a cap,
A
no
lot of
problem,
questions.
but if it's an average, that's pretty problematic.
You mean an average?
An average or a median or whatever. Hopefully it's a cap.
cap is
I-
fine because we weren't gonna have those be any more expensive than that anyway. were
So
we?
we're going 160 now.
Yeah, there, I did not think it was capped at 140, the way we have it now.
Okay, let me find out.
Yeah,
I mean, this is exactly what Aaron Giello was getting at, is that, you know, we have these expensive units that then we cap the AMI and we're just totally strapping people.
Yep.
Actually, Lori will be down here for housing and childcare, so we can get some more specifics from her. And I apologize for not having the correct answer.
That's all right.
all right. Public projects update. Thank you for being here, gang.
I think so.
Sales price.
Yeah, so also can you ask about if it's an income cap or a sales price cap? Thank you. Because if it's a sales price cap, that's different.
That's what I.
Hi,
Hello, Mayor and Council.
Sure, because then we.
go ahead. They're just gonna keep talking.
I invited Chris McGinnis here to join me. He has been the project manager and the designer and the contract lead for the Broken Land sidewalk.
Yeah,
So we have a decision point for council here regarding the Broken Land sidewalk project. This project is part of the sidewalk master plan. In talking to some folks, we realized perhaps the whole council isn't as familiar with the sidewalk master plan as others. It was brought to council back in 2018 and criteria were selected on how to prioritize projects. This project meets most of the criteria that we have established with connectivity to transit, extension of an existing sidewalk not located on either side of the street in this area, as well as ease of winter maintenance and a few others. There's about 11 criteria that we look at when we propose sidewalk master plan projects. So this project did rise to the top based on that criteria and not only citizen requests. So we rebid the project as explained in the memo. And to move forward, we do need a supplemental appropriation of about $200,000 if we want to move forward with construction.
questions?
I think
Thoughts?
I do have a question about, I know that we have some issues with drainage and that's part of the reason that, the project has changed, but would there be any reason that we'd have to rip this sidewalk out in the future to redo that road or any foreseeable circumstance that would? Okay.
I think we're taking into account all of those items by adding the inlet, fixing the drainage. We're going to do a lot of repaving with it. So I think this would be intact for a couple decades, hopefully.
That's great.
We had done conceptual designs on the intersection there, made sure we could leave the sidewalk for any future improvements.
Okay.
Shannon, does any of the criteria for the sidewalk master plan include usage or projected usage or? And
Mhm.
and if so, like, what is that language?
We do call out pedestrian traffic counts. We don't have a certain metric for it. So we did look at the transit data, who was using that sidewalk. And it does appear to have pretty decent ridership with over 200 per month at that stop. But we haven't conducted any specific counts, or do we have a certain metric that we need to meet?
Thank you.
It's still a dangerous corner.
Yeah.
I mean, in the
It's a
end,
blind
it's a
corner, right?
blind corner. People tend to drive fairly speedily, so. Probably worth the money. How's everybody else feel about this? You good? Good. Good, all right, there you go.
Move forward with that. Is there additional questions? We put some information on there regarding our asphalt and concrete bids that came in. We are within budget on those, so we'll be moving forward with.
That is exciting that you're within budget on that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of a first.
More,
That's what,
I'm
in the
glad we
last
had more-
little while. I mean, it's gotten so damn expensive. It's going up so fast.
but it's nice that we had multiple bidders.
Yes. Aside, well, we had one bidder for asphalt. Columbine was our only asphalt.
Oh, for the
bidder.
asphalt, but for
Mhm.
the concrete.
But for
bids.
concrete, we had multiple, which was great. Any other
Other
project
questions?
questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, mobility.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Mobility update is in your packet, and we can start with parking if there's any questions or comments.
I don't know if Shannon passed this on to you. I had a visitor say to me that they felt it was really confusing, the signage in the parking structure, because it didn't say you could park at pay at a kiosk. And they could have been wrong, but they had trouble downloading the app then because they were in the structure, and it was fairly frustrating.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we should say use the app or pay at a kiosk outside, or I don't know.
Yeah, that one is a little convoluted because there's three options, the kiosk or two different parking apps.
Right.
So we'll look at what we can do to clarify the signage that's in there.
Yeah, you need a lot of signage because you have to remind them to remember their license plate number.
Yeah.
That's just step one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
And I've had actually a lot of trouble paying from the apps. If it seems like if you're at the ski area these days, you cannot get the app to load in short order.
Did meet with,
Ground down like,
yeah, we did meet with Passport last Tuesday, and we actually gave them some feedback on the issues people were experiencing. They came on site to kind of replicate them, and that gave them a lot of feedback to go back and figure out what really the stem of the issue is. We think it's two different things. One is their app and one is our cell service.
Right.
So it's not
But I was
one
just-
solution is going to fix it. So we're working through those.
Yeah, we get great self-service here, don't we?
Isn't our in-town Wi-Fi like be somewhat, do we have, does our in-town Wi-Fi that we put in, does that work in the structure?
No, I don't believe it's in the structure. I have it. Trying to think. Shannon might know as well. But we might have to, you might have to connect to it though. But at the transit center, we have it. And then through a lot of the other buildings, you probably are getting it in the parking structure. I'll check that and see if we can maybe even make that a recommendation to people.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to know. I had a couple snapshots of Passport failures, but I deleted them. I was gonna send them to you.
Yeah, please do. Anytime you get those, please send them to us so we can try to figure out when and how they're happening. So.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we had in regards to the 10-minute takeout zones that was brought up, I think by Jeffrey last meeting. We did remove most of the signs that are on the parallel parking spots along Main Street and Ridge Street and whatnot, but we'd be willing to put them back up if you guys would like us to look at that, maybe take a tally of what we have out there and look at putting them up. We'll have to update the signage to be a little more clear, but we can do that if you'd like.
What do you guys think?
Was that even while we had them and they were active? Do you think they were being used as intended, or were people parking in the spots?
I think in most intents and purposes, they were being used as designed, but the issue is enforcement for the parallel parking becomes much more difficult. Whereas most of our signs are bookend signs. There's one sign that's saying where and one sign saying where you cannot. Those signs were basically, they were open-ended. So we had an issue with enforcement with those. So we can make those more clear, and then we can probably put one back up in each kind of block face in front of the restaurants or wherever we'd like to put them, but there's potential for that.
You know, Dick, maybe you can send this to the Restaurant Association, see if anybody
Cares.
really cares anymore. Or if
That's
that's,
Yeah, we can send that out.
yeah.
Sure seems like we need some on between Main and Ridge on Lincoln. Feel like that whole zone, there's always somebody either double parked or.
You
Yeah,
mean
because
Count
where they
Pedro's
park is
parking?
not, yeah, that's not parking. That's no parking.
Create a
That's not
10-minute
how-
zone in one of the first spots there or something, just to, because that's just terrified driving through there.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
People.
Yeah. You want on each side.
But if you put your hazards on, it means you can do whatever you
Mhm.
want. That's what the
That's-
chief told me.
Mhm.
Just
Put
like-
your hazards on. You
Just
can
like City Market.
park wherever you want as long as your
Put
hazards are on.
hazards on there.
See what you want.
Any other questions about parking or?
Could you maybe for the next meeting, just bring us a location? The locations of what we do have currently
Sure.
and we'll reach out to the restaurant community and see if they have any desire and before we launch into something that maybe nobody wants.
Yeah.
Sounds good. The other little bit, last bit on your free ride updates there for switching over to that, if you're all right with that. We did go over to Vail last week and checked out their transit technology and their buses in general. We did learn one good thing that we aren't doing here. So our buses are very much the same, even door openings and how they function. But one thing that we did learn is all of our buses and all of their buses have a kneeling feature, so getting on the ground. And we over here do not use it as often as we could, mainly because we're worried about breaking our buses. When they kneel down, they put a lot of stress on the suspension and the airbags that are in there. So we've just kind of have an unspoken rule of we don't kneel them unless we're requested or we have an ADA passenger. So now that we've understood that that's something that Vail does, and it's clearly, it makes the experience better. We're going to look into how we can improve our kneeling percentage, just to make the experience a little bit better for people that need help with their knees or whatever it might be. So we'll look into that. We may not change anything right away, but I just, figured that would be a good bit to give to you. And then technology wise, their buses are the exact same brand of technology that we use here. The big difference is the nice monitor that's inside of each bus. Some of them have 2 buses that tell you the next couple of routes. Basically says where you're going and where you're going to be next. So people can understand when they need to pull the cord a little bit sooner and with a little bit more assurance that they're going the right direction or they're at the right stop. So we're going to look at getting prices for that. I think I mentioned a few months ago, we're out of our contract with Synchromatics, who is the same company. So we may look at either creating a new contract and going into that kind of idea. The third part that was big with the Synchromatics, they have Wi-Fi on all of their buses that helps to triangulate the location of the bus. It's also able to be used by the riders, which we don't really need to use it. Most of our trips are under 5 minutes, so there's not really much time to use the Wi-Fi. But for the buses, it actually helps locate them specifically as they pass buildings with Wi-Fi, et cetera. So the app will actually become much more live time and a lot less jerky. So it'll be smooth as it operates. You can kind of see the bus in a little more live time instead of when it just pops up on top of you. So we're going to look at doing those kind of 3 things to improve our service to kind of get on the par of what we kind of see Vail is doing. So that's all I have.
Cool. Questions?
Thanks for looking into that.
I appreciate that. You said something last meeting that kind of stuck with me, and just curious if you have any connection with Breck Ski Resort's transportation arm, and if there's any syncrasy that can happen between the two, so it doesn't feel so very different, or if they kind of do their own thing and it's firewalled.
So they are listening, and they, we talk throughout the meeting and we get feedback. So their director and myself talk probably every other day at minimum, and the operations team, so the free ride and the ski resort teams, I would say are talking on a daily basis. So we do have a lot of things that we do together, but obviously we're a funded system with a lot more funding. So we have better equipment in general, and they actually have signed on to Synchromatics with us, so they're in contract with them as well to track their buses, so they're on our app as well. So we do try to do as much as we can, as similar as we can, but we know the difference in our equipment is quite obvious.
Great, thank you.
Real quick, is the gray replacing the brown and the yellow? Is that what's going on there?
It has replaced it, and that's kind of been a summer to winter switch, but just due to staffing and our fleet needs, we have just run the gray all winter. So yes,
Cool.
Is replacing it. The intention is we'll get back to that brown and yellow. The big difference with the brown and yellow is there's 2 buses additional in a brown and yellow route, whereas the gray is 3 buses, and the brown and gray is 6. So 4 buses and 6 buses. So
The 30% less service hours, is that related to the bus count
solely to the brown and gray, or brown and yellow.
and not related to employee and staffing? A little bit of both.
That is one of the parts of it, yes.
So what do you need help wise to get there? Is it
We are,
day spots or?
it definitely, a lot of different things are going on. So transit hiring in general, CDL hiring has been difficult. So we have kind of phased out of the winter hiring, and we're kind of moving in. We've already changed our job recs to summertime. So we're working towards that process. So
Cool. Yeah, please let us know what we can do to help. I mean, from a sustainability perspective, love seeing these numbers going up and to the right, as I'm sure you do. So.
Yep.
And then just to answer the question on the parking structure, so we have really good Wi-Fi on the first level inside and out, and then partial availability for Wi-Fi in the second and third levels.
We
can,
jack that up a little bit.
and I'll work with Chris to see what
Okay.
it would take to do that.
Excellent. Jack it up. Thanks a lot, Matt. Housing and child care. Oh, no, I'm sorry, sustainability. Ooh. Sorry, Jesse, I put a check next to it because I was anticipating and then I totally forgot what I was doing.
Discretion, Mayor. All right. I'll let Teddy kick it off.
Yeah, Teddy.
All right, I got the easy ones. Just the Mayor's Challenge. This is another prize week for February, kicked off yesterday. So anyone can take a selfie of their alternative commute or any picture from it, submit it to us, and they'll be entered to win a $50 prize. So I wanted to mention that. Thank you, Brooke and Eric, for the videos that we've been pushing out on social media. Helps get people's attention. And the Breck E-Ride, our e-bike share program that will be launching in May. We've got kind of close to final design on the logos, which are in your packet. And we've got bi-weekly meetings happening with Drop from here until launch, getting everything lined out for that program.
Awesome.
Anything on those before Jesse takes the hard stuff?
Great. So I did want to follow up and just answer some questions that I understood popped up at the last council meeting around the food scrap and carton depots around town. We do have the new depot at the ice rink. We are already seeing contamination and illegal dumping at that location. So we're going to continue to monitor that and perhaps make another recommendation. But it's there and it's available. We also are tracking the monthly volumes by location. So you can see those in your packet as well for the food scrap portion. And we're seeing steady uptick in the Wellington Lincoln Park location, which is great. There's also an update on the construction and demolition waste study that Vert Sites and High Country Conservation Center are doing in partnership with the county. So you can see the high level goals that are outlined there. And we did provide, as stakeholders, we did provide feedback to that plan. And once it's finalized, we'll come back to you with some potential policy recommendations to advance what we call C&D waste in the industry. So a little bit more to come on that. Related to the materials management fee, we did send out invoices in late January based on the tier structure that was approved by ordinance. Since that time, we've had a lot of feedback. Some of you guys have had a lot of feedback. Some of it has been around who received the bill. We really felt like targeting the users of the facilities was the appropriate approach. But there have been a lot of property owners or landlords that have wanted to receive that bill on behalf of their tenants and they didn't. So there's some issues related to who we billed. And then also there's been some questions around the equity of that program. We tried to simplify the tiers a little bit from how we do the trash and recycling billing. But that has put maybe some smaller users into categories that they feel like they're not part of. So we're doing an analysis right now. We met last week and we're doing, we met internally last week and we're doing an analysis specific to key card swipes and the users that have been assigned those to better understand if they fit in those appropriate tiers or not. So we're still analyzing this. We've had about 15 businesses thus far make payment. Any questions on that fee? I know you guys have had a lot of feedback on that.
No, everybody I talked to understood it once I explained it.
Yeah, it does take some education, but
I think there's some misunderstanding that this is not your trash hauler.
Yeah.
This is a separate fee and I don't know why. I don't know why that was a difficult thing, but anyway.
Okay. Well, we're certainly listening to the community and trying to figure out better ways to approach this.
Listen, if we have smaller users that, are getting overcharged, let's just lower those fees. I don't think that's a stretch.
No, and I don't think so either. We just I don't want to throw a dart at the wall and say, here's what I think it should be. We're going to do the analysis and actually look at that usage.
Send a letter to all the property owners to say that your tenants have received the bill for material management with an explanation of what it is. not the bill to them, but a letter to them saying this is what happened, you know, if you would, in the future, if you'd like the bill sent to you or the property manager, you know, let us know. That caught me by surprise because the couple property managers that or property owners that called me, I really thought they would want their tenants to pay it and not them. So
I think those I spoke to is already in the lease that the landlord was responsible.
yeah.
Yeah, there was certainly some lease agreements that we weren't aware of, and of the property management companies we did pull ahead of time, we used their input to structure the program, and now we're getting different feedback. So, and then lastly, I have a pay-as-you-throw update. We continue to have our monthly meetings with the major haulers. We just had one with Timberline last week. Everything, it looks to be on schedule. Again, the 90% compliance date is in October of this year. We did receive the submissions for the pricing that was required in our rules and regulations that staff put together for planning purposes. We believe that it validates the assumption that if you have trash at the 64-gallon size and weekly trash at the 64-gallon size, and you have recycling, your rates will stay the same. If you choose to go to the 96 or you remain at 96, you'll see a price increase, which is the intent of the policy. And if you are able to downsize to a 36 trash and recycling, then you should see some savings. And so we believe that it did validate that assumption. And we did see that across all of the haulers that submitted their information.
Great.
So I'm a little concerned about our communications about this program. I haven't seen anything. I just feel like probably the people in this room are the only ones who know that this is coming. Maybe there's some that's going on that I'm not aware of, and that's definitely possible, but I am really hoping to be bombarded soon.
So we have, we're trying to work with each individual hauler because their individual rollouts are a little bit different, and we don't want to bombard everybody when one hauler rolls out their program. So you're going to see, particularly from Timberline customers, we know that in the next month, you're going to see some information in your bills related to the new program. They're going to ask a survey for you to project if you think that you're going to change sizes. So they're going to try and kind of poll people to see if, so that they can order their bins. And then they're going to link back to the website that we've been developing internally for the town. So that's kind of step one with Timberline. We have our meeting with Waste Management on Friday of this week, I believe, and we'll have the same conversation with them. I did not include it in your packet, but we now have video and social, as well as the print ads that I think we showed you a concept of a couple weeks ago. And that's all going to start kicking off in April.
Great. I think we might want to draw people's attention to looking at your bill, because I think most people have it on auto pay. I don't open my bill. So if you are trying to get information like what size, probably we need to start telling people there are lots of changes going on. Make sure you open your bill.
Okay. The other two things I'll mention is that we'll have a in-person community forum on this scheduled for April 6th at the Rec Center in the evening. And then we'll have a virtual, basically a duplicative event on May 11th. I believe it's scheduled for Breckenridge. So we'll push that out as well as we get closer to those events, but we'll be answering questions at those as well.
Sweet.
So have we worked with the property managers like Alpine Edge or those that are, big property managers in the community to give some of this information out as well?
We have not specifically targeted them with marketing. So that's a great idea.
Just to spread the word.
And those would be for, there's some nuances because the property management company is typically working with a group account. And really the primary piece to this is those individual carts. So there's some nuances there, but there are certainly property management companies that do have those types of accounts.
Yeah, if for only to get all the workforce housing, people aware. I mean, that would be a big number.
That is a good point.
Is Frisco going along around the same speed or?
Yep. So far the haulers are planning to roll Breckenridge. So when I say roll out, what they need to do is deliver recycling carts to people that don't have them. That's the primary operational component to this. And they're looking at a May 1. Everything we're doing is kind of leading up to May 1 for Timberline. Waste Management has not given us that timeline yet. But the plan is to then do Frisco over the summer and get it all lined up before that October deadline. So it sounds like they're planning to do Breckenridge first.
Okay.
If the event at the rec center is an open house format, that could be a great opportunity to push more information about the other amazing sustainability
Like an open
programs
fair,
we
yeah,
have
okay.
going on. And then also potentially invite some other partners, things like HC3 is there, but I defer to the green team if you want to highlight precious plastics or other partner things.
Great.
Will we have Spanish available?
We are working on Spanish and I think it was a comment a couple meetings ago where you wanted targeted, like almost door to door type marketing in neighborhoods, and we are working on that as well.
Great,
Yep.
thank you.
Mhm.
Jesse, on the contamination, at the hockey rink or the ice rink, what are we using the lock just like we are?
Yeah, they're leaving bags outside of the facility.
Mm.
And we get that at the glass container there, and we get it at the bus stop.
It's just not a good.
Ice rink's
location.
just a tough location.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't do it there.
Yeah.
You know, there's too many people that park their car overnight that stay
Yeah.
in some of the surrounding, and that's a convenient place for them to dump trash. So
And
maybe
it
we
does
should
say
just-
food scraps, and we have a nice banner to try to put up, which we haven't done yet, but it's still an awkward location where,
Might just be
trying
the
to.
wrong
Yeah.
place to do it.
The Summit Roll-Offs did make a recommendation that they feel like the library is a very good spot. They hardly ever see contamination on glass there. It's mostly local,
Oh, there you
local
go.
users. And they did recommend that. And I said, let's wait and see, because we wanted it deliberately on the south side.
Okay.
But if we're gonna see this contamination, we should change it before it's bad habit.
I agree. And I think those guys know what they've been fantastic partners on this. And if they have that recommendation, I think that's worth adhering to.
They're also working on some specs to enclose the impound lot location moving forward with stables, just to try and clean that area up too. Summit Roll-Offs is gonna give us some recommendations
Good.
as to how to make that look better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're a little behind, but we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break.
Despite.
Huh?
Despite being.
Despite being behind, because one of the council people Waiting on.
Carol.
We're just waiting on Shannon.
Remember her. It's great.
Rolling here.
Make Kelly do it.
Housing and Children.
I would never in a million years.
Oh, the events committee meeting, people are seeing her. I'm like, just gonna sit here, sit up straight, do what I'm told.
Oh, good afternoon.
Vibes.
Melanie had to run home for a plumbing issue, so
Oh, God.
I'm stepping in for
Winging
Melanie.
it.
But we did not have any committee notes in your packet as far as I
Can't
recall.
can't hear you. A little closer.
So no committee notes in your packet. So basically here for any questions you might have. And then I did hear conversation about the IHOI grant and there is a 140% cap on the sale price. There's no income cap on those.
Oh,
And
okay.
we do have some 140% units in our performer right now, so. But no income cap.
So it wouldn't represent any change to what we're already doing.
And it, Lori, it is how the DOLA defines affordable housing, right? So I think that's in their definition of what is
Right,
affordable,
right.
and because we're applying for affordable
Right.
housing, that we have to meet that. Just that.
On the sale price, yeah.
Okay.
Is Suzanne and like the whole group, are they aware of, I would hate to have the developers come back to us and say, hey, we didn't know that there might be this limitation. We put out those projections, but we didn't know it was gonna be a hard number. We need an X number of million more to make.
And we'll make sure they know that that is a hard cap on the sale price. We've actually been looking, right now, I think we have 21 units that are at that 140. 5 of the single families and 16 duplexes are at that 140. But we have units all the way down to 80%. And we've actually been thinking, can we even lower them all a little bit? But yeah, we'll make sure she knows 140 is a hard line for the grant.
I mean, I'm,
And it's not an average.
no.
Yeah, but we should tell them.
Yeah. Other questions? All right. God, you got off easy tonight. Jeez.
Thank you.
Committee reports, there was a stage advisory meeting. Questions for Matt? And events.
So you have the memo in the packet, unfortunately, or fortunately for John, he's in Hawaii with his family celebrating his
feel bad for
parents'
him.
anniversary. So he's not available, and I think he hoped that Kelly may be able to answer any questions you might have.
Oh, I would have prepared some had I known. Anything, gang? All right. Marketing and communications year in review.
Hello. So in your packet is just a broad overview of our 3 social media channels, which are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And they mainly focus on things like new followers, the engagement, some posts that did really well, and like just different things like impressions and reach. Questions on that? Okay.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
And then going forward, we are still going to do social media because it's a great way to reach people. But then we're also trying to reach people who don't use social media. So like radio and digital ads, trying to reach Spanish speakers, because we've talked about that in social equity and things like that. And yeah, any questions on that?
Have you had many people sign up for Text My Gov, or I guess text you? I don't know if you have to sign
Text
up.
Brooke directly.
I mean, I am the one that sees them in response. So we have gotten a lot of people asking questions like around parking or like events, things like that. Reporting things like water issues. We haven't fully rolled it out. We did take into consideration the groups that you guys wanted to see. So we do have different groups broken out. And we're hoping now we have the flyers back, we have the widget correctly on our website, and we're going to be rolling that out probably in the next week or so.
Cool.
So you haven't sent out, you haven't,
Not any alerts yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but we do have people signed up for like the main Breckenridge one, but as far as like government specific or just alerts or recreation, like that kind of stuff, we haven't gotten too many people signed up for that yet because I don't think they know about it yet.
And I
Great.
think that's great. Just looking into different avenues, so many of our community members prefer text over everything, especially in the Latino community. So I think it's great you're looking in those innovative ways. I feel like I've gotten so many compliments on social media the last year, how many communications you're pushing out there. That's just been really great. I'm wondering certain other avenues we have. I know we have our council recap newsletters, the videos that we do after council, and I'm wondering, are we monitoring those and seeing what is really reaching people and if we should focus on one or the other?
Yeah, so as far as it goes with like the recaps of the emails, we have like a open rate and we have like a click rate on our MailChimp platform. So we can see all that, and we can also see, we get people wanting to sign up for it all the time. So we get new people all the time, the more people find out about it. So I do find that that's really helpful. I think what I like about doing the videos after council is that maybe people don't want to read the whole email. And so you get just the highlights of it. And so I've heard a little bit of both, like people really like that as well. And I think maybe people more in like my generation or just a little bit above it, they like that.
Yeah, no, I love all the different means you're using. And then finally, I have friends that ask me sometimes, we have that landing page where we can sign up for the council recap, the sustainable update. I wonder if it's worth doing a push on just that page to get people to that page to sign up.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we might, I have to look back in our link in bio for like our Instagram, we have something like sign up for emails, and it takes you directly to that page. But we could definitely post about that so people know about it, especially because we're bringing back Connect with Breck. So that could be also another newsletter people might want to sign up for.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And then I think you do a really good job at working with partners. When we want to reach certain parts of our community, we have those partners. If it's restaurant related, we know it's the Restaurant Association. If it's the immigrant community, it's Mountain Dreamers, it's BERT. So I love how you're doing that, and I hope we continue to do that. I think communications are essential in our role. I know we don't do the most interesting things all the time, but I do like,
What?
how many people showed up to Coffee Talk?
It was grim.
Yes. So I think as a group, we need to think about on council shoulders ways to get people more engaged, and it doesn't have to be all on Eric's shoulder. either.
All you gotta do is come up with something that nobody likes and everybody shows up. So that's the secret.
That's it. Thank
Great
you.
job, Brooke.
Yeah, thank you. for
Really,
everything.
really good job. All righty. STR Licensing Annual Report. Bella. I don't know. He wanted all of this stuff and he's not around for any of it. Meeting and he's not here. Hi. Hi.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Town Council. I hope you guys are all doing well. Good to see everybody in person again. So this is our inaugural short-term rental annual report that we added this to our ordinance in August. And we'll be providing this to you every year by February 1st. It's in the packet. I hope you've had a chance to look over. No fireworks here, as you guys can see. But I'm sure that maybe some questions or just maybe clarifications may be needed that I can help with.
No, it's actually a really good report.
Yeah.
Easy to read.
Okay, that's good to know because it's in Bulgarian.
That'd be really, I'd be psyched if it was.
Great having the timeline and notable events. I mean, it kind of frames it before you get into the data. That's very helpful.
There were some historical numbers that were kept, and I tried to keep that streamlined the way it is. And hopefully it will just be meaningful moving forward as well.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that there's still licenses in zone 1, lots of them.
Yep.
And I think that this, in a lot of ways, was the intent there is to create that flexibility. So it's working. So far, so good.
Anything else?
No,
Thank
this
you.
is The first year of data. And
Yeah.
Interesting to keep monitoring and looking. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So much. That was an easy one. All right, Gondola Lots Master Plan Extended Vesting Development Agreement.
I couldn't remember, so we put the cap at 2,200. What was the real number?
It's 4,000.
Okay.
Hi, Chris.
Afternoon. We have a development agreement request before you from Mike Dudek of Breck Grand Vacations. And it is to extend the vesting by 1 year to November 23rd, 2025 for the current Gondola Lots Master Plan in exchange for the community benefit of a donation of $200,000 towards the capital fund for a new child care center. We did, with this request in mind, we did just provide just a synopsis of code changes that have taken place since you approved the master plan at the de novo hearing a little over a year ago. Really, of those code changes, only the elimination of policy 4 mass would have any implications if they were to try to renew. And obviously, it would have a pretty severe implications from running through some other similar projects. We found that now with the elimination of mass and for common areas or areas below grade being now included under density, you need approximately 54% more SFEs to have a comparable project constructed. With that, happy to take any questions. Mike is here in the audience also to answer any questions.
All right, let's start with questions. Anyone? Nothing? How about comments? Dave?
In the $200,000 capital contribution to a new in-town child center, I'd like that to be revised to an addition or additional capacity to existing child care centers. So that it allows for those funds to be used in the Timberline expansion if we decide to move forward with Lower Red or wherever that is. I think that's
The applicant signals that that is okay.
So new or addition.
yeah, I think so.
But capital.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I mean, Timberline's planning that expansion right
Yep.
now, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
still capital.
Dick?
I would prefer to see a 6-month and then give the applicant the opportunity to come back and ask for a second 6 month, because there are a lot of unknowns in here. And to just do a year right off the bat, I mean, the the impacts or opportunity for the opportunity for the developer and the impacts for the community, as you just stated, are really very significant. So a 1 year extension on vesting is a very significant ask in my mind. And with the unknowns, I'm very much open to a second 6 month if things are making progress. But if they're not, I think 6 months is more appropriate than a year.
Okay. Why don't you come down and sit next to Chris, Mike, so we can get you on the microphone?
Won't make a bad joke about being a signal guy. Yes. I assume we're saying 6 months and 100. Is that what we're saying, Dick?
I mean, I'm not gonna squabble over the money. I think 200's, when we're talking 57% increased SFEs, it's a big number. It's a huge number. So whatever, I think the 6 months is a big deal. The additionals, it could, yeah.
I'm happy to agree to contribute 6 months at 100,000 if that's the will of the council to move forward and help to make a dent in the needs for, childcare in our community.
Okay, that's acceptable to me.
Curious, is that enough time to work through what you'd like to work through?
I believe so.
The 6 months is?
I have a high degree of confidence as long as I have a high degree of confidence. That's the appropriate amount of time.
And then you're open.
And I think that Dick makes an excellent point about an additional 6 months if necessary, that we can come back and have that discussion.
We're making progress.
Yeah.
Todd?
Yeah,
Good.
sure.
Good. 6 months, 100,000,
Thank
and
you, guys.
with the option. Come back
Expansion.
for an additional 6.
Perfect.
Another 100.
Yep.
Another. Excellent. All right. Sinopra. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Oh, and Mike.
So based on that, we'll come back at the next hearing with a development agreement for you to consider based on 6 month extension with $100,000 contribution.
To childcare capital, either current or future.
Got it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Expansion or new.
Notice of administrative rulemaking, and like that, we're caught up. You see that? See how I roll?
Well
That we're
done.
way ahead.
Well done.
All we gotta do is take a break.
Take a break. That's right. All we had to do was take a bathroom break. Already. Hi, how are you guys? Awesome. I don't get to see you very often, so thanks for being here.
Absolutely. I'm Jessie Launder. I'm the Administrative Supervisor for Community Development.
Missy, could you just pull your mic a little closer to you, please?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jessie Launder, Community Development, which includes the Building Division. And I've got, of course, Rick Fout, Chief Building Official. We have these administrative regulations in your packet today. We recently wrote them. They cover things like how to submit for a permit, required inspections, and required reviews. Most of them have been in practice for a while. We're making them official now with the admin regs. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Questions? All right, go to it. Thank you.
Thank you guys for all you do. I know that you have an incredible amount of work coming through your office, and we really appreciate how you just keep everybody moving.
This was one of those
Thank
special
you.
assignments that hit us hard, but Jesse did the lion's share of the work. The rest of the building department, like myself, were just there for support, sounding board, some tweaking and some refining. But she did an excellent job on it. So
Feels very concise, this report. I mean, based on
Yeah.
what the code is enormous and, so it was useful. It was interesting, I thought.
I'm excited to have something to refer to and to send our customers to review to as to exactly how it's done.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, it's good.
Simplify and save a lot of words and explanation. We just show them.
Here, read this, quit talking. Right? I like that. Excellent. All right.
Champ.
Thank you. Hey, we have an exec session. Yeah.
Since you did grab some time and to save this evening, would you like to do committee reports? before
Do
we
it.
go into exec
Let's
session?
start with the report of the town manager and staff.
Just an update on the planning commission. We still only have one application and the deadline is Friday.
Monday.
Did we extend it?
No. I
Oh.
think it's Monday.
We extended it till Monday.
You just said it was the 20th.
Huh?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. We won't ask them.
But if you know anyone or would like to solicit some folks.
Actually soliciting a couple of people, so.
Yeah, but there's your update on that. There's a cast meeting. This is the annual legislative kind of all-day thing we do down in Denver on March 2nd. So we need to know, we make a long day out of it, so it's
It's a
probably
good
leave
one.
here at 6:30. Huh? Yeah, we may have to take a couple cars if we have too many, but it'd be you right now. I think Kelly's got it on her calendar. Dick, are you?
Oh, that's Thursday.
Thursday, March 2nd.
I'll
I
go.
think I can make that.
I'll go down.
Sweet. I'm not available. I'm going to the Shamrock on the Shamrock trip.
I'm going to Springsteen that night, but I think I can do that.
Oh, yeah, you could do that. and then
You
go.
staying down there?
Oh, no, we're gonna come home after.
I'll probably be
You're
down.
going
there
to
the night
Springsteen on the
before.
2nd?
It's a nighttime show, so I can go to the daytime stuff for cast.
Okay, I'll
And
talk to
I'm
you.
Todd, did you say you are gonna stay?
I'll be down there. I got stuff lined up the night before, so I'll
Okay.
figure my own transportation out and accommodation.
So you won't be, you wouldn't go to the dinner, but we can talk.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, but I won't go to the dinner. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk, but I'll go to all the daytime meetings.
It's gonna be important that with what's going on with some of this legislation, because the legislators will be there. So maybe we talk a little bit beforehand about some of these things that need to be handled.
You'll leave another letter?
No, I'm not gonna write another letter. I think the other one, the first one did exactly what it was supposed to.
About
Jesse,
the
all I have.
land use stuff, Eric, primarily.
Yeah, primarily the land use stuff, but you can grab them for some of the restaurant stuff too, some of that scheduling.
Eric, if you want some, I mean, you and I attended MMC on
Or
February 2nd.
MMC. Big discussion about the post office.
A lot of stuff on the post office.
Oddly, my wife was at the post office and the postmaster asked that I call him. And I told him that I did defend the Breck post office. It sounds like Dylan and Silverthorne are really having a rough go right now. I think Johnny, our postmaster, has gotten things,
He's trying.
he's definitely trying. He's got the same kind of help limitations that we do, and I think he's definitely making a great effort. So I want to be supportive of his efforts. Number two.
As you throw also, I mean, let them know that we're still moving forward, but we're still open to, we're still want to be part of any discussions dealing with any potentially becoming a countywide carrier, any of those types of things. We still want to be part of that. We want to be part of, every other discussion relative to whether it's construction debris or any other things that we're working on. But it's pay as you throw is important to us. And it's important to Frisco and
Know it. What else are we talking about? Is that it?
I mean, you gave a really good update on the proposed landing
Oh, yeah.
use legislation that we're talking about. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's about
That
it.
was about it. I did get to go to Breckel and talk to the two different groups of kids. And one of the groups was about sustainability, and Teddy joined me and he did an awesome job. So looks like Teddy's not here anymore, but he killed it with the kids. It was really, those are always honestly the most fun to listen to. Some of their questions are just the best. So
I can only
it
imagine.
was great. So, all right, open space. Oh, Jeffrey's not here. No open space. Tourism?
Todd went for me. I was out of town unavailable.
Yeah. Notes. Excellent. Skip me on that one.
Okay. All right, we'll get back to you. How about history?
Both history and equity haven't had a meeting, but to roll them all together, the Black History Month social media, banners, everything. I think I've just had positive feedback for
Yeah.
everything that's been pushed out. And then Rec History did a night at the Barney Ford Museum. That was pretty well attended.
Excellent.
Mhm.
That's great. You know, when we were down in Capitol, that's the first time I saw that
Me
stained
too.
glass, and that is really cool.
Yeah.
Super awesome. Creative Arts, you ready for that one? Or you
Yeah,
wanna
I'm
go
ready
back
for that
to-
one. So there's a retreat for the Board of Directors on Thursday. They plan to schedule a time to come share the outcome with council and get additional input from council in the next coming weeks. For those that are interested in, it's Black History Month. They're doing a current exhibit called We Are Sears by Jovan Speller. So check that out. They're also organizing and coordinating the 30th anniversary of the Riverwalk this summer. So stay tuned for that.
Great.
And then they are in recognition of the school district kind of having a tough couple of weeks and needing some laughter and love and community. They've invited the SSD employees to join at the Riverwalk on Saturday, February 18th. There's a comedy night there and everybody gets one free ticket. So
That's awesome.
you're
Good for them.
connected to SSD. So.
Hey, and speaking of that, you know, Tony was at our meeting, at our mayors and managers, and sort of gave a little bit more of a blow by blow. I think he's a pretty good dude.
Good.
You know, that was a really tough run for him, and he handled it with grace. So yeah, that was pretty rough.
And I'm ready for tourism.
Tourism.
Cool. All right. So financials are great for 2022. Oktoberfest was successful. In Colorado, tourism represents 20 billion and 170,000 jobs. Sounds like they've got some board turnover coming up here soon. So just something to be aware of, that they need to get some new folks in there with some term limits. And they're excited about the work on the capacity analysis data and yeah, working on that. So, and then they've had a lot of success on their English language education classes. That's going really well. So yeah, that's kind of the scoop from BTO.
Sweet. Events? Anything to add?
No, well, the one thing I will add is that there's a conversation going on about where they're gonna blow snow. Obviously, Lucy loved that water, but probably not the most sustainable choice, and definitely it took something like 90 truckloads, and which for a pretty long distance. So, you know, we have to talk to our partners at Beaver Run and Vail Resorts to ask what they think about bringing it back over. But I think that is, you know, besides blowing it on the location, a better location than way out where they did it this year.
And do you think there's any potential to discuss extending the event a couple days, leaving them up till maybe Friday? Now that our parking, you know, we originally did that because of parking, and I know we don't want to have 2 weekends of parking, but you know, maybe they come down Friday instead of Wednesday.
I can definitely bring it up. I think this year we were a little bit lucky, like in a lot of years it warms up and they don't look near as good after being up for a long time. So I'll definitely bring it up at events, but
And I can bring it up at the BTO board level. They're cool.
yeah.
They were great this year.
Well, it stayed so cold. They were
I
fantastic.
talked to quite a few people that had come up Wednesday and were bummed. Came down to the restaurant. to tell me
Yeah,
they were bummed.
and the takedown, I understand, I haven't been a part of it, but it's kind of an event as well.
It's-
So it might be something that's kind of fun to have on Friday. I don't know
Cool, yeah.
if crowding would be an issue, or I'll talk to them about
That's
it.
all they need is with all those machines running around to have a crowd watching.
Right, that's healthcare.
We're gonna have a meeting.
And housing, anything to add?
No, they're crushing it.
I tell you, Dave and his team put together some spreadsheets and pro formas and such. I don't know if you guys. I think we shared with you that we got a little nervous a month or two ago, just. With the amount of money we were spending, just kind of what, you know, how is this gonna play out over the next 10 years? And man, these guys have put together, it's kind of a living spreadsheet so that it ties to all the project budgets as well. So as the project budgets change and tweak and everything, it it propagates to the pro form. It's fantastic. And where we can really watch year over year over year over year. And, you know, because it's a very complicated, you know, we've got restricted dollars around debt and everything else. And just it really brought great confidence in what do we have to spend on what projects and the great roadmap. So we spent a lot of time on that. And, we talked some about, we talked quite a bit today, actually, about some of the issues of late with the Wellington, you know, with sales over there and you know, private property and personal property and that kind of thing. And you know, I think we've got a pretty good approach working.
Oh, good. Okay. Because we may have some people showing up tonight to talk to us about that.
Good.
So,
Sorry.
Oh, but you for, by all means.
I talked to Brianne from the FERC this week. And I don't know, this may have been explored before my time or just I wasn't aware of it, but they're getting a lot of feedback from their clients that they wish there was more of a universal application for housing. And I mean, of course, ideally, we would at least have all of the town of Breck stuff on this universal application. And there are lots of things that would have to be updated, pay stubs or other things that, you know, you have to do within 60 days or whatever. But I think there's a large amount of information that goes into every single application that would be very similar or the same. And especially for people who, you know, are either working several jobs and don't have time to do this over and over, or are English as a second language, they're finding it very cumbersome to work their way over and over through this.
That's a great topic for us to talk about at committee, but go ahead,
I
Todd.
love it. And to dovetail on that, I wonder if there's a way to not only standardize it across the county, but then make it really easy to annually update it.
Yeah.
Boom, here's the 3 pieces of tax stuff you need and it's done. Like
Yeah, and I
simple.
think, I mean, of course, Breckenridge might have some different things than Silverthorne or something, but it just seems like 90% would be the
You
same.
can do it like the Common App in college, you know, I mean, it's one application and then each
You might
community might
attach.
have a little bit of supplemental stuff, but it's way less work.
Right. And I think it just became such a focus in this Alta Verde application where people aren't qualifying. And then they're looking at, okay, the next application process for the county and then the next application process for Alta Verde too. I mean, they're just going from application to
Great
application.
point. That's a great point.
you guys take a look at that.
Yeah, Shane, can you make sure that
I
gets on our next?
Made a note.
Excellent.
Should have just talked to Shannon.
Well, and it just, I don't want to belabor this because we had, I mean, one of the things we're going to be looking, and I say we as the housing committee and eventually as a policy with council, hard is whether we end up in a mandatory lottery process on all of our deed restricted. And as much as I'd love to be able to sell my unit to my neighbor or something that I've developed that relationship with, and, you know, I think we're just, you know, we have to learn from the other people like Aspen and that have, you know, that's all they do. And they, you know, they're one of the ones that have more units than we do out there. And it's probably the only way we're ever going to really address these issues that we've been seeing forever. And they're just going to continue is to just, and, you know, it kind of plays into what you just said, you know, you put, especially if we could get a countywide adoption of that. So you apply, you do something, you get your name in so that, you know, maybe you become in a lottery for any location. Or if you have preferences, but you know, for that kind of stuff. And so it just something I think we're gonna have to look at.
Yeah.
Shane, you're right.
I didn't want to look at this because I felt really strongly about it, but I do feel like it's become more and more clear that we need to consider something that's less preferential, I guess. But one thing that I would like to consider is something that Todd brought up a while back is just like that maybe it's a weighted lottery, like maybe you get more balls if you've been in the community longer, or I mean, the specifics, I just like to know that you guys talked about that at housing, if there are ways to do that.
We've heard about this other stuff forever. selling pieces of furniture for tens of thousands of dollars to buy the house. And I mean, it's not like this is a new thing. So
We can do better, and
We can do
Rick, I agree 100%. We'll do better.
cool.
It's the only, talking about committees and then hearing the report on the applications for planning and speaking to some people from the Summit Foundation, BTO. We're really running into a place where we're running out of volunteers and people that are willing to step up for different roles. And, there's all the organizations in our community are experiencing this, and just wanted to kind of shed some light on that of if there is, we've brainstormed ideas of having kind of a volunteer open house job fair kind of style of where we bring in the BOEC, the Summit Foundation, the BTO, and all of our partner organizations where we provide that ability for people to be able to check out what everyone does and where they might fit, especially some of our new residents. And I thought that was a really clever idea of kind of a community involvement fair, if you will, where we're able to allow for some of our new residents to be able to get involved easily. So,
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jay.
Yeah, Jeannie's talked about that for a while and maybe even kind of make it somewhat of a welcome to Breckenridge, we want you to be part of the community kind of approach to it. So that's great, Jay. I'm glad. Hopefully that's moving forward. And I hope that we, all the local mayors and council folks can be there as
Yeah.
well to
Well, we could talk about some of the things that we have.
just to help people
volunteers for.
feel welcome and help them understand that local government's accessible, et cetera,
I was just
We're
saying,
gonna Implement a policy at some point this year where we want all full-time employees would be eligible. To, as long as they're volunteering, so they'll get paid, they'll get paid to work at. We haven't.
So basically, they would get a certain number of hours, and BGV does this, but a certain number of hours that they could take away from their normal work time to go volunteer. So they'd get, paid like they normally would, but they'd get, say, 4 hours to go do volunteer, and we'd have a set of nonprofits that you could choose from. So we're still working out the details. Dana's working on it, but we're kind of excited to roll that out because I think Jay's right. We're certainly seeing a drought of people who are volunteering or have time to volunteer because they are working. So we're hoping that this helps, and it is something that also attracts employees to us.
I think that's great. And maybe, Dana could partner, work with BGV a little bit and kind of get a sheet of best practices and try to shorten the learning curve for the small businesses around town. If somebody wants to do it, is to have a lot of the work almost already done in the policy. That would be very helpful.
Tied into the forum you brought up, Tamara just texted me and said BCA could host and connect it to the town party. And I think that's what she's commenting on, is that piece. So there's some options out there.
I'd like to have that be the celebratory post cleanup party and then have that, it makes a lot of sense.
It'd be
And I think
awesome.
that-
While we're on this subject, I spoke with a nurse yesterday. And we were talking about the whole governmental process in the county. And we have talked about this before and sort of skirted around it, but there's a certain group of people that will never sit on council because this job doesn't pay enough even as a second job. And I wonder if some point we need to have a discussion about, how are we going to attract other people to this job than people like us that can afford to sit up here and miss work, miss family time? How do we do that? What kind of incentive can we bring to the next couple rounds of council that we can make it more inviting to get more people from the community that have a stake in the community but can't afford to be on council? So I think you know, it might be time to start having that discussion and maybe start it with the sustainability task force or the equity task force. Yeah.
And we talk all the time about other commissions being kind of an experience before council, and I think Shannon and Dana, is it ongoing or have looked at how we compensate all our commissions too, and different benefits we provide to them, and I think that's the first step, but yeah, it is a larger discussion.
Okay, other matters?
Yeah, I've got one. And actually I meant to bring it up during the STR. Todd and I met with, some of the leadership of the Realtor Association, but what's the name of that group?
Summit Association of Realtors.
Thank you. The SAR, and it was great, productive, very constructive and productive meeting. They had one asset I thought really was very reasonable. That I would like to at least explore with staff, maybe staff could explore and see if it's possible. Basically that they, you know, they have huge liability in the zones for the STRs, and the county's got them now and the town's got them, and, you know, they get questions all the time from potential buyers, you know, what zones it in, what are the rules, what are the STR, you know, they might be looking at multiple properties, so it's a big thing, and they hoped that possibly we could overlay our STR zones over the county assessors data map, because that's what they use. That's the kind of their go-to for property values and everything. You could probably speak this better than me,
You're
Todd.
doing good.
But if they could overlay those maps and try to get the county, and maybe we at least start in the upper blue, you know, to do a test run with it, and in the town partner with the county, and we try to overlay all of our STR maps over the assessor's map so that it's a useful tool to the realtors of our community, in terms of having a confidence level around, you know, what zone they're in and stuff. Great, Mark. You have some thoughts?
Thanks, Dick. Right now, if you go online, it is overlaying on the assessor's map.
Cool.
So you can search by address, I believe. And then you can also just look at the map and say, okay, it's in this zone. So all the zones are related directly to that. So
Could you send a link to that map and that whole interactive piece to Todd and I, and then we can get with those guys and see if they're looking for more?
Is this on the Summit County GIS map or the
Yeah.
town of Breck?
Must be ton.
it's on our website, but we're using the county's assessor's data.
So I think what we need to do is reach out to the county and get it as an overlay on the county's GIS. You know, there's all those check boxes and there, you know, I think it'd be very easy to have a checkbox on their GIS that says, you know, STR regulations, and you could check on that and it could highlight those zones.
That's
So,
precisely what
you
they're
know, I know
asking.
John Shampoo, I think, does some of that stuff for the county. So I think we should reach out to the county and see if we can make that available on the assessor's map.
And Mark, we could loop you into a couple of realtors that were asking for it to make sure we kind of, before we spend a bunch of time, get a very useful tool to that group. That'd be great. Thank you. That's awesome.
Other matters?
Well, I would add too, but sometimes, Eric, and we should make a note, these are the kind of things I think we bring up at MMC. And get, you know, support from everybody to make, this should be countywide. And while some don't have them, some are still, they have some things, you know.
Yep.
But,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Make a note,
I will.
because I'll forget. Other matters? I have one. So Nayland caught me at the snow sculpting People's Choice Award. There's a thing at Gravity House. So they have a party. All the teams are there. It's really fun. Everybody's in a great mood. Next year, he wants to do this huge Sphinx. He wants to do it in the Blue River Plaza, and he wants to make it part of your competition entry that you have to put so many hours into this piece. And he just wanted me to mention it to you guys. Here's a little, pass it around. That's what he wants to do. And he'd love for the council to support something like that so he can sort of So push it on. It would be it'd be a big piece that all the teams worked on over the course of the thing. So,
Does he have a reason for the Sphinx?
no, I don't know why.
I think he's really
very
researched this
sustainable.
He is really, he's been all over this thing. No, it's a piece he thinks would be really cool. And it's one that for some reason is really near, he's been to Egypt, I think, and it's really something he would like to do.
I'd heard about this conceptually, I didn't know about what the piece would be, but just the theme of unity and,
Yeah.
and cooperation and collaboration and which I love the themes.
Yeah.
You know.
Only if it's your head on there.
I told him I'd do whatever I could. So that's just, it'll come up at some point. I'm sure he'll come and want to say hi to us and that's such a great event that I'm happy to get behind anything for that. It brings a lot of people to town and it really is just a signature event for us. So. All right, anything else?
I was just gonna say, I believe Lucy's brought up that idea of a world peace, she's
Yeah.
called it so,
Yeah, that's what he's.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Sweet. All right.
I have one more thing.
Yeah,
Can I do other matter?
you can do as many as you want. Your fee usually has 5%.
I just wondered if there was any interest from the council. I'm sure everyone's been reading the pieces in the Summit Daily about the FERC and how much more use they're experiencing right now and have been for a couple of years. I was just wondering if we're interested in looking for any additional money for them for their food pantry. I don't know if we have any like tobacco nicotine tax funds or something like that that is along those lines that we could look at giving to them.
You got some extra money hanging around is what Kelly's asking.
But it's not for the kids this time. Or
Well,
they-
I mean, there's probably a little bit of extra tobacco, nicotine tax, but I wouldn't, if you wanted to do 100,000, we could probably look at that to see,
I guess I'd like to understand their need this year outside of our normal cycle.
Mhm.
So that'd be helpful.
because countywide, we're giving them 500,000.
Yeah. But they're feeding like 365 people, or they're having 365 visits a day. I mean,
That's crazy.
It's an enormous amount. And I just think with the end of ski season coming up, they're gonna see an increase in that need again. So
Yeah.
I would just like for them to know that they.
Well, I would rather say if you need more, talk to us, because do we know? I mean, we're giving them more than we've ever given them, and maybe because they are serving more people and maybe it's meeting their needs, so I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you want to reach out to her?
I will. Yeah, we had a very brief conversation and I'm certain there's a need there. I don't know for exactly how much.
I like getting in front of that, but I also like what you said too. But leading in,
Nice straddling the fence there. I like that.
I think getting out in front of that's important.
I do too.
Totally.
They're such good partners. I just don't
They're-
want them to.
Great organization. Yeah, I just filmed some ask videos for it.
Good.
All right, any other matters? All right, we're gonna move into executive session. This is purpose of acquisition and negotiation. I move that the town council go into executive session,
folks, we are gonna be moving into a different room, so
Oh.
you all don't have to go.
Or you can go.
Or you can go if you'd like.
or you can
but-
go.
But
Instead of
we
just
will be
sitting here
moving
doing nothing. Where are we going?
a lower level conference room.
Oh, okay.
But you gotta make the motion here, so. not
Okay.
the Session. You have to.
Isn't that a good one?
I think there's some verbiage missing though, isn't there?
Isn't it serious?
Move the town council go into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402-4E for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations and or instructing negotiators concerning property. The town may be interested in inquiring for open space. Roll call.
Mayor Mamula?
Yeah.
Pro Tem Owens?
Yep.
Councilmember Beckerman?
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron is absent. Councilmember Carlton?
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin? Councilmember Sade.
But my voice better.
Now let's go into, if you'd all go into the
Yep.
lower level conference room.
Why are we thinking that?
It's now 6:14 and the executive session has been concluded. Participants in the executive session were all the members of the town council, manager and deputy, Rick Holman and Shannon Haynes, Scott Reed, town attorney Kirsten Crawford. Town council has discussed in executive session whether to direct the manager to negotiate the acquisition of property for open space purposes under certain parameters which are confidential for the purposes of negotiations. For sake of transparency, any final decision as to whether to enter into and execute a final agreement on the acquisition of the property is the authority of the manager. All right.
Wish for something you don't want.
Face has seen some hard.
I would
times.
have a full beard if it wasn't all white.
Oh, scary. It's not now.
Oh,
Sorry.
sweet. All right, I'm going to call to order the town council regular meeting for Tuesday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's to all of you. It is 7 PM and roll call, please.
Councilmember Owens,
Here.
Councilmember Carlton,
Here.
Councilmember Bergeron,
I'm not here.
Councilmember Sade,
Here.
Ackerman,
Present.
Councilmember Rankin,
Present.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. Approval of the minutes for January 24th, 2023. Anybody? Changes? All right, minutes stand as presented. Agenda, Shannon?
No changes.
Agenda stands as presented. We have public comment, non-agenda items only, 3-minute time limit, please. Step up to the mic, say your name, say your piece. Hello.
Hello, council. I've never spoken here before, but I felt passionately I'll come in tonight. So my name is Sarah Fury. I have lived in Breckenridge on and off for almost 20 years. Ironic, your comment about quitting your job and waiting tables at Hearthstone. I actually started here working at Mikasa waiting tables 20 years ago, which kind of leads to what's bringing me here tonight. And I'll try to keep it really short. In a nutshell, I have lived here on and off all this time. The only times I've ever left was to go back to New York and try to make enough money to come back here and buy a home. So last week, I'm sure everybody here is aware of the situation of the house that was for sale on Bridge Street in the Wellington neighborhood, a neighborhood I have also lived in as a renter in the past couple years. I'll keep the personal facts out of this, but basically we knew these people very well. We were told they'd be selling their house. I had 2 days to try to put together an offer before I was told by Elizabeth and Ryan Scholl that they would list the house publicly. So we scrambled to do everything we can. Both me and my partner live here, work here. He works for a nonprofit at Summit Youth Hockey. So we try really hard to get this house, to get the pre-approval, to get everything, all the ducks in a row, only to find out that it's posted on the Wellington Facebook group for, the asking price of $482. We get our offers together, talk to realtors who then talk to their realtor, who they told us we wouldn't even have for another couple days. And then we're told that they're only accepting cash offers on the house. And first I was told that the house listing price, according to the Housing Authority, was at $462. We were then told that it was up to $482 with capital improvements, flooring, et cetera, whatever other, accumulations were there. So we said, okay, we can get the approval. We can pay at the house at $482 at market value, no problem. We knew they wanted extra money for appliances and a shed. We knew this even going into it. We offered them $10,000, a reasonable amount of money for these other things they wanted to sell. At that point, they cut off all communication. We were trying to deal with their realtor, Spencer Lane. We were told they were only accepting cash offers. The bidding war on these so-called appliances and the garden shed were up to $35,000. This was 2 days after a Facebook post. So both my partner and I, clearly upset, bowed out of this race because under no good circumstances would we be able to, A, come up with that much cash on the side, and B, we didn't feel good about doing that. So my point in being here is, how is it fair that someone who has $500,000 cash can just come in and buy a deed restricted house in a local community like Wellington, when you have people like us who have lived here and worked in all these businesses all these years to try to buy a house and afford a home? So, I mean, that's my piece on that. How much time do I have?
I don't know, another minute.
So another minute. Bring it back a couple years ago to when I was renting a house from Majay and Leslie, two wonderful people who, town of Breck, and neighbors next door to me there in Lincoln Park, realtor in town. I had told them, hey, if you ever sell your house, let us try to buy your house. They took their deed restricted home in Lincoln Park, rented it to people from Florida for 1 year. The husband wasn't even working here. They had never lived here, then gave them first right of refusal on their home. We never had a shot. They never even put it on the market. So I don't know what kind of cash deal they got on the side, but they sold this deed restricted house to people who had never lived here with a loophole that they were allowed to move here. She got a part-time job and this guy kept working out of state and out of the country. So it just breaks my heart when we continue to work here and work for the community. The system's broken. I mean, how do we fix this, So that's my piece. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. We talked about this afternoon a little bit, and our two members of the Housing Committee are going to start working on some ways that we can tighten this up, because we all agree with you that this is not working for the people that we have put a ton of tax money into creating places for locals to live. And there's too many people just finding ways around the system. And really, the system was never created to catch people doing the wrong thing. We assumed everybody that wanted to buy these homes would be people that wanted to live in these neighborhoods and work in the community. So thank you. We appreciate your comment and taking the time out tonight. And we are definitely going to do something about it.
We appreciate it. And we own a deed restricted house in Breckenridge. And it's really hard. What's to stop us from price gauging the next person? They know.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the problem. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else this evening? All right, public comment is closed. We're going to move on to some new business this evening. First reading of Council Bill number 3, Series 2023. This is a bill for an ordinance to reduce single-use plastics and in connection where therewith establishing fines and penalties. Jesse.
For reading that title. This ordinance both aligns our current code with the Colorado Plastics Pollution Bill HB 21-1162, and then takes it a step further with a couple of additional product bans to begin in July 1st, 2024. So I'll just read through these really quickly. And we did have discussion at the work session, and I'll note the changes for second reading. So this would require customers to opt into single-use plastic serviceware and condiments at all retail food establishments until July. And it was proposed until July 1st, 2024, at which time they become prohibited. That was one of the changes from the work session that will be included for second reading. Related to single-use condiments, we will allow for opt-in to continue. It would raise the recycled carryout bag fee to 25 cents and require 100% recycled content bags. It also changes the allocation that stores remit to the town and the allowable amount that they keep for certain uses. It would also ban all plastic beverage containers in any town facility, park, or special event permitted by the town, effective immediately. Establishes a ban on polystyrene containers to begin January 1st, 2024, and other plastic carryout containers beginning July 1st, 2024. And then related to plastic beverage containers less than half gallon in size, beginning July 1st, 2024. Related to that, it was proposed by the American Plastics Recyclers that we add some exemptions in there related to dietary supplements, milk and medication that council was amenable to. So we'll make those changes for second reading as well.
Awesome.
Is there any questions?
Questions? No, is there a motion?
On first reading, I move that we pass Bill number 3, series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? Roll call, please.
Member Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Bergeron. Oh, absent. Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have a first reading of Council Bill number 4, series 2023. This is a bill for an ordinance to exempt recycled paper carryout bag fees from sales tax code. Jesse, again.
This is not my area, you guys, the tax code. Thank you, Mayor, for reading that. Because the previous ordinance would increase the recycled content carryout bag fee to 25 cents, we also need to make sure that we're not taxing that fee. So this would make that change in the tax code.
Thank you, Jesse. Any questions? Anyone in the public wish to comment on this first reading? Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
On first reading, I move that we pass Bill number 4, series 2023, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sade.
Yes.
Member Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman, Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have first reading of Council Bill number 5, series 2023, a bill for an ordinance amending Title 12, Chapter 3 pertaining to the town's water system cross-connection control program, and in connection therewith adopting civil penalties for failure to comply with the program requirements. James.
Mayor and Town Council, the ordinance for first reading this evening will amend this Town Code Title 12, specifically Section 6, entitled Compliance. This amended language will provide authority to the town water utility to impose civil penalties to property owners that are not in compliance with Town Code program requirements. Currently, the Town Code does require property owners to comply with a testing and reporting requirement annually if they have a backflow assembly as part of their property. As this was presented today at work session, I believe all the questions were answered, but I'd be happy to take any additional questions if there are any.
I have.
Thanks,
one
James.
That am I skipping?
No.
Oh.
I said, thanks, James.
In James, as we've talked about in section 3, line 28, 29, there is concern from a third-party tester about the language in that line and what they could be potentially responsible for with testing and calibrating gauges. So I just wanted to make a note on that and that we could look into that and understand those concerns and maybe make adjustments for second reading.
Yes, I'd be happy to speak with this individual and also our town council and find out if there is if that is incongruent with what the intention is there.
Okay, thank you.
Just once annually, okay. Thanks, James. Any other questions? Anyone with the public wish to comment on this first reading? Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
I move that we pass on first reading, Council Bill number 5, series 2023, the title of which has been read into the record.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes.
We have the first reading of Council Bill number 6, series 2023. This is an ordinance authorizing the granting of easements, Public Service Company of Colorado for the installation of electric vehicle charging.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Matt Holsey, Public Works Assistant Director of Sustainability and Mobility. This bill authorizes the town manager to enter into a service agreement with Excel as well as provide the accompanying easement to install and maintain EV supply infrastructure and Excel-owned charging equipment at the Breckenridge Grand Vacations Community Center. This has little to no cost to the town and will be available to the public. With that, I'm available for questions.
Thanks, Matt. Before you do that, I missed the line here. It's an ordinance authorizing the granting of easements to Public Service Company of Colorado, for the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure and XL Energy owned charging equipment. And with that, any questions? Anyone in the public wish to comment on this first reading? With that, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
That on first reading, we pass Council Bill number 6, series 2023, the title of which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes, we have a couple of resolutions this evening. The first is resolution number 3, series 2023. This is a resolution appointing a relief judge and fixing their compensation.
Mayor, council, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is as presented at work session today. This is gonna provide some backup to cover some dates in municipal court. The proposal is to approve Judge Ron Carlson to cover those dates. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you. Any questions? Anyone in the public wish to comment on this resolution? No, public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
I move that we pass resolution number 3, series 2023, the title of which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. Resolution number 4, series 2023, a resolution authorizing the grants administrator to submit a grant request to the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, DOLA, Innovative Affordable Housing Incentives Grant.
Mayor and council, as discussed at the work session, we have a resolution that would allow us to apply for a DOLA grant for infrastructure at Stables Village. The grant amount is $3 million. It does require a 20% match, which we've already budgeted for, and you approved in November, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Anyone in the public wish to comment on this resolution? No, is there a motion?
I move that we pass resolution number 4, series 2023, title that's been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and 2 seconds. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have a resolution number 5, series 2023. This is a resolution approving community development block grant application on behalf of the Family and Intercultural Resource Center.
Mayor and council, the town has been approached by FERC to partner on this grant opportunity. It does require a governmental entity for FERC to be able to apply, and we'd like to do that on their behalf. The grant amount, it would be about $600,000 or would be $600,000. There's no match requirement and very little work on the part of the town in order to help them with this. It does require that the council approve a resolution in support of our efforts and also to conduct a public hearing on this item. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? This is an easy one. Anyone in the public wish to complain about this one? This is a nice one, so I don't want to hear it. But that public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
We pass resolution number 5, series 2023, the title of which has been read into the record.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion by the council? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Rankin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sade,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. All right, with that, planning commission decisions. There were really no decisions, so there's really nothing to talk about there. We have any other matters?
I do have.
Yeah,
another
go
one.
ahead, do it.
It's been brought to our attention that at the end of the month, a lot of, or the federal SNAP funding and Medicaid, right? Money is running out that was associated with COVID. And so, the FERC is in pretty dire need of, a big chunk of money to help those folks that are gonna lose quite a lot of money towards food and, or be kicked off of healthcare. So I would propose that Shannon looked it up and it looked like the nicotine tax we haven't spent all of that money. It's not appropriated for, a big portion of it is, but we have $100,000 that we could give to the FERC to help them, bridge this gap. And, you know, I know that a lot of times we like to, get other communities to also put into this bucket, but they need it really right away. And it's causing them quite a lot of stress to be looking for this money. So I would just propose that since we have it, we do that full 100,000 and other communities can chip in when they can.
How do we feel about that?
I'm totally supportive.
I am also. Good, all right, 100,000 to FERC. Any other matters? All right. And with that, we are.
Damn, he runs.